This is going. Oh, audio is going.
Audio is audioing. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and do it.
What's up, Duckers?
It feels good to do that again.
Yeah.
It feels good to be back in the.
It's kind of been almost, 10 months?
Feels good to be back in the saddle, hey boys.
10 months.
Yeah, it has been 10 months. So are we officially starting?
We are officially rolling. We are back.
Man. Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a hot second since we've done anything.
I know we said we were going to come back next week, and
Next week turned into 10 months. Yeah, we've been gone for the better part of 10 months. A lot of stuff's happened in between. Personal stuff's happened, business stuff, just a bunch of things happening behind the scenes. We had to move. Obviously, we're not in the garage anymore. As you can see, we're very close to the camera. This time we had to move some stuff around, but we're back.
Yep.
We got a cool space, and Mr. Wizard over here can make any space look like a professional studio. So we're back for the time being. I don't know where it's gonna go. We have a lot of big plans. I want to pick up where we left off from the last time, even though a lot of time has happened since then. We've had a lot of big political events, big world events, culture events. Everything has all the cool stuff has happened since we've been gone. But we're coming back, and we're gonna catch the tail end and then keep going.
it's a new year, new studio, new way to play.
Yeah,
Let's get started.
yeah, that sounds like a slogan.
We had a couple of subjects that we're covering today. Main first subject that I wanted to cover was Invincible.
Yeah. How about okay?
Review.
All right.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so initially, it's so funny because I think that I'm like making an educational video, so I'm like, okay, so Invincible. No. But for those of you that haven't watched Invincible, I would definitely encourage you to go watch it. There's kind of, at least in my mind, there's kind of this stigma sometimes that people get when it's like, you know, you're watching a superhero show outside of the main superhero group. It's kind of like, you know, going over and talking to the weird kid in the corner when all the popular kids are like by the Kool-Aid table.
It's definitely like the take on DC, but gone totally haywire.
But I think it's definitely what the world's kind of needed as far as like the entertainment and like just culture in general. It takes me a while to kind of branch out into different things, but the two things that got me reinvested in superheroes again after the slew of, as you guys know, bad superhero movies that we've had.
Oh my gosh. You mean the Marvel cinematic?
Both Marvel,
Universe?
DC, cause it's so sad.
I keep forgetting DC movies are.
Well, we'll talk about that later on times. Like
They're not completely all bad. I did enjoy the.
they're not completely all bad. They're just kind of they're just trying to play catch up like 90% of the time.
They're going way too fast, and that's probably their biggest issue is that Marvel has been established for a while, and DC hasn't really started doing like the single superheroes, then moving up to the group.
Well, I think
They're just kind of dropping in on us.
I think this is what I've always had is that Marvel knows what to do on the big screen, but DC has always known what to do on the small screen.
Yep.
DC has more higher rated TV shows and more culturally loved TV shows than Marvel does, in my opinion. And that's just coming from me personally. I've watched more DC shows and fell in love with more DC shows than I have with Marvel shows. It's just kind of the lay of the land. But as we know, for the last 20 years, Marvel has had a chokehold on just the movie industry. But taking that, right, since we've all kind of had the burnout fatigue of both Marvel and DC, having a show or an IP like Invincible come into the fray was a really good breath of fresh air. And The Boys was the first show that kind of turned me away to the aspect of non-traditional superheroes and what we think of them, right? As far as like, you're not going to DC, you're not going to Marvel, you're stepping outside of the bounds, you're going into new territory. It was a really good breath of fresh air. And we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but where The Boys fell off for me, spoilers, where The Boys fell off for me, Invincible picked it up and kept running with it. And Invincible, I think, as far as an IP, it's very, very, very creative. Coincidentally, the same guy that made Invincible is the same guy that made The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman.
Which I kind of found interesting. So did he draw? So you actually are gonna know a little bit more about that than I will. Did he draw up those comics, or did he storyline? Like, how did all that work out?
I'm gonna try and not speak from a place of inauthenticity or what I don't know about fully, although I probably will sometimes. What I know as far as like The Walking Dead, it's been a phenomenon for a while. A lot of people that I've talked to have kind of lauded it as like the single most, like, if you're thinking about zombies, The Walking Dead is in that conversation at some point in time. You guys are gonna have to help me out in the comments. I would love some help on this, because I can't remember if Walking Dead started as a comic and then a show, or it started as a show idea, turned into a show, and then became a comic afterwards. I don't remember.
Oh, well, I for some reason I haven't seen The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I was under the impression it was a comic first, then it turned into a TV show.
It could be because like and then
I
said
gaps there.
yeah, I have to do some more looking into it and stuff like that. That'll be my quintessential phrase. I'll do some more research to do it. But the same guy that made Walking Dead is coincidentally the same guy that made Invincible. And you know, I haven't even seen much of The Walking Dead, but we already know, as far as the awards that it's won and stuff like that, and the fan base, it's one of the best TV shows out there. At least the bulk of it, right?
So that kind of explains why Invincible seems to have popped off really prevalently, especially on the Instagram reel, the culture, everybody's talking about it. I see nonstop clips of it while going through my reels.
Well, yeah, and it's also like, it translates really well. The storytelling translates really well. The shows that I love particularly are the ones that have like the best understanding of like not just characters, but understanding of what it means to create a suspenseful story. And
Right, and let's actually dig into that a little bit more. So really starting to kick off the Invincible conversation. I finally got into it when season 3 was debuting. So I started to binge the show for myself from season 1, episode 1, all the way up to the current. So I'm all caught up.
yeah.
I wasn't before. What I can say is that being a fresh take on the superhero genre, I feel like the story focuses more on not just like the family and dynamic, but just also the personal dynamic. So like every character actually has like, hang on, I'm gonna recut.
No, you're good.
So something I actually liked about the Invincible story was that it went from like it's not just the world is ending and needs saving kind of ordeal. It's more like we actually have these characters that we are building up and that we care about, and that there is something to lose in every battle. And then the other aspect is that the show doesn't even hold back one bit. Our characters getting beat to shit
I'm like,
time and time again.
it's very funny because there's so many aspects. I'm gonna, I don't care if we edit this out or not. I kind of like the idea of having a podcast that has a bunch of like, bullshit, strung throughout and stuff like that. But I really like Invincible because it's like taking different like cultures, cuisines, and then throwing them together in one giant pot, and it actually works, right? Because there's aspects of like the Viltrumite DNA that mimic the DNA of the Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah.
Like not completely, but kind of a little bit branching over in concept, right? Each time that they come to the brink of death, they return stronger than ever. They can also train to become stronger than that. So it has the elements of like of Dragon Ball, which is I'm a super fan. That's what I grew up on. But it also has the elements, of course, of Superman, and a little bit of like the injustice, like what if Superman turned evil, but more in like taking it and grounding it in the sense of like a more of a murder mystery in the first season.
With a lot of tension.
Yeah, a lot of tension, a lot of like, ooh, what's going to happen next? I really like that. And then taking that and throwing like everything at the wall, like the amount of building that the story has is really, really cool because you think about it, the evil Superman trope is like it's there and done, and then they take that on and build on top of it.
And that's just the other thing. You actually binge this show starting from season 1. Season 1 sets the tone for the rest of the series. By far.
Yeah.
And then you go all the way back to episode 1. Episode 1 sets the tone for the entire show.
Yeah.
So setting up what our universe is, and then you think, oh, it's just our typical almost DC knockoff universe.
Yeah.
Up until the end of the first episode. Then that's when the tension building starts up for the rest of the season. So it's like, okay, so Nolan killed all the Guardians of the Guardians of the Globe. One will say Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm back in Marvel.
Hey, we're all over the place.
He gets done killing the Guardians of the Globe, and then we're just like left wondering, okay, why the heck did he just do that? So he's lying about his he's lying about the Viltrumite background and what they're actually all about. He's lying to his family and the entirety of the planet Earth. And then we're trying to figure out, like, okay, he's trying to hide it. So he goes off, he kills the Guardians, tries to hide it throughout the series while still pretending to be a hero. But then we know that there's an incentive while we watch Mark grow with his new powers.
Yeah.
And that sets the tone. Like, he's getting stronger. He's starting to learn how to use his abilities. And then he's trying to navigate his personal life dynamic.
But yeah, and
while it's going around.
Throw that in, and you've got like the Spider-Man dynamic off rip of the struggle of balancing day-to-day responsibilities, which I if I remember correctly was not a thing until Stan Lee dreamed up the character of Spider-Man to be able to battle with everyday things that you and I battle with.
And then Mark
throw that in there.
And then Mark tends to overpromise. Like, he wants to have this girlfriend life, and then he wants to be having the superhero life, and then he's thinking about college or trying to finish high school. I guess in season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, high school into college.
Yeah, high school into college, and then he's trying to balance out, being a guardian of the globe. And I think he tried out for it in season 1, didn't he? If I remember it right. Well, anyway, Cecil, Cecil basically took him in.
I don't think he was trying out for the Guardians of the Globe because originally Nolan was not a part of the Guardians of the Globe simply because it was like, well, one, we already know.
Yeah.
Epic foreshadowing. We already know why, but it was also kind of like the Batman aspect of I work alone. Yeah, I'm gonna stay over here and do my own thing.
Yep.
Something that you talked about before, it's also why I like the show a lot is because the writers, the head writers and the showrunners were creative enough to be able to understand that it's basically at this point in the culture, if you're gonna make a superhero show, it's like throwing a needle into a stack of needles. How are you going to be able to ever distinguish yourself from any of the other IPs? It's already been done before. That's why, like, when you go into the Invincible show, you're like, okay, here's your flying guy, here's your super strong guy, here's, heat vision.
Here's your detective.
Yeah, here's your detective, here's your Tony Stark, here's that, here's this, here's this, here's that.
Here's your female Superman version or whatever.
Exactly. Here's like your special ability.
And they took that and it threw it all out the door.
Exactly. And it is really it's really awesome to see because it speaks to at least the current culture in my book of corporate America, as far as the corporate entertainment industry, really not understanding or too afraid to prioritize new creativity over a consistent profit. And we go back and forth over this all the time, but it's really, really nice to see somebody who is like, gets to the end of traditional storytelling structure where most companies would be like, let's just churn out another copy. Let's just do it. Let's switch the characters around. Let's turn it up. They don't compromise on that.
Yep. So ending from season 1, you finally find out what Nolan was really about, especially after beating the shit.
Dude, I'm sorry. That ending episode of season 1 has got to be like one of the best like season finales as far as
that was probably one of the best executions. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. That was probably one of the best executions toward the ending for its particular genre. And I think Invincible is kind of its own thing, personally.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much its own entity at this point. But just in the final episode, just like the sheer destruction.
1 second. got people trying to call me while we're doing our podcast. I forgot to put my phone on.
The Apple Watch on. I don't have the Apple Watch. I'm not.
I love this little thing, but I totally forgot to put my phone on airplane mode before recording.
I almost kind of want to just leave it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Just it doesn't matter.
Like the whole impolished nature of it.
I want to continue onward though, since like season 1 really set the tone for season 2 and 3, especially dealing with the Chicago aftermath, and then that in particular haunting Mark.
Yeah.
As the season goes on, so not only does he have to deal with the fact that his dad is a murderer, he's still trying to fulfill broken promises. He's going into college now, or at least he's trying, but let's be honest, he never really attended.
No, because it's the classic superhero trope. It literally is Peter Parker in the middle of being Spider-Man. It's like I am trying to balance a fruitless weight scale at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he's trying to still exercise his powers. He's getting stronger as a hero. And then he's basically we're trying to cope with the PTSD from season 1, which is a really nice how am I gonna actually put that into words? It's a nice little thing to have on the back burner. It's like, yeah, we know what happened in season 1. We know what happened to Nolan after evacuating Earth, after he's like starting to embrace his feelings. Which I don't know why Viltrumites don't like.
I love good memes too.
They bark. You'll outlast every insignificant whatever. I was just like, all right.
Oh, dude, it's so fucking funny, man. I
love the fact that was like the animator for that, who also did Dragon Tales, by the way. He animated that scene, and he thought that just that notion wasn't that big of a deal. That's like just what he thought would fit.
Yeah.
And we did not anticipate like the absolute carnage of a meme that would actually spike up.
That's funny.
That is honestly the most hilarious thing I've like. As an animator, dude, you should be proud. I forgot that guy's name. I'll probably just throw it in on the screen here in just a second.
Yeah, when we can find it later.
So funny. But anyway, like having that just kind of as the set burner for the rest of the 2 seasons. Okay, then we're gonna go see Mark's dad again. We're gonna go see Omni-Man.
Yeah, that was. I'm not gonna lie.
The Thraxons? Is that what they're called? The Thraxons?
Yes. Yeah, different from the Flaxons that are the other time traveling, whatever they are. And from season 1. But I'm not gonna lie. Like that first scene where he's like, "Hi, son. It's good to see you." I ain't gonna lie, I'm mollywopping you.
I was under that point of shock. Like, oh, you can't just pretend nothing happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he was like, "Never mind what happened. There's stuff happening now." But I checked him and
but I get it. It's Nolan's like growing to term dynamic. Like he's starting to realize he's trying to embrace feelings, and he doesn't like, that's why he had that whole conversation with Mark. He had Mark in a chokehold, like, why do I care for these people?
Which is, another testament to, like, at least good storytelling, in my opinion, is, like, having these characters, because, if you're going to do a series, the one thing that I feel like, and listen, I'm not a director, but I feel like the one thing that I would hate is treating the audience like they're stupid.
Nope.
And coming
like what most Hollywood movies do now, right now.
Yeah, all the slop that's turned out now. Because it's one, it takes less effort, but 2, it's really a detriment to your future endeavors, because you treat somebody like they're stupid, they're going to end up resenting you. And that's why I really like the character development that goes on with Invincible. And I'll get to my second one. I really like the development with Nolan in particular, that it's not just a straight turn back around. Like when he was in prison with Alan on the Viltrumite
prison on the asteroid belt.
Yeah, on the asteroid belt. You could see it took 2 or 3 whole episodes. It's 3 hours, but weeks in terms of the actual show's time.
He's not just doing it within the spur of the moment. It's like this is actually something that's taking him a little bit of time to get used to. He's not used to having or embracing emotion. Doesn't seem like that's a Viltrumite thing.
Yeah, and my favorite trope about that is that episode at the end of season 2 when they're fighting through the prison ship and stuff like that, and Alan basically just kind of becomes the sacrificial lamb. And because you find out later that Alan's like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, it was kind of subpar, you know what I'm saying? They kind of hit like girls a little bit, but I had to sell it for you a little bit to kind of bring it. I really like that idea of because it really is. It's like trying to get like a stubborn kid to eat vegetables.
What's Alan's alien race called again? I'm blanking.
The Unopins.
Unopins. Yeah, okay, there.
But it's like from the storytelling aspect, I really like it because it forces the audience to also feel this way of like, come on, dude, let's go. Kick it in gear, bro. They're either gonna kill you or you're going to be dead at some other point. Like,
that's the one thing. Like Mark's been holding back, which that's currently ended after season 3.
And I don't know the exact. I haven't read the comics yet. But I don't want to speak to what happens, but I can only speak at that side. Finally. Although I really wish, because I know a little bit about Conquest, like a tiny bit, not enough to give you a lesson right now. But
yeah, we're still talking season 2.
Oh, but you jumped to season 3, so
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, you're good.
I was just kind of like a spur of the thing.
No, I don't think we also don't have to quarterback it for them. They already watched it.
That's true.
I think like I don't know. I'm just gonna talk about like my favorite moments and kind of like build on like why I like the good storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Okay. So you kind of know the whole like stigma that's been going around as far as the casting of Conquest. There was a lot of people.
That was a weird drama between the internet and Invincible for me.
Well, it's weird because, like, at least for me, it's weird because I'm, like, on the other side of it now. I used to be that guy where if I was really passionate about an idea, I'd be like, you gotta get this character. You gotta get him casted with this dude. He's gotta be this guy. He's gotta do it right now. And then, I don't know, coming into it with, like, a fresh perspective and just kind of being like, you know what? I am not, like, a day one fan of Invincible, but I'm becoming one. So I'm just kind of here to watch it. I'm here for a good story. And so when people are like, well, you got the right casting.
So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, people had a huge issue with whoever was voice actor of Conquest, which is kind of strange to me because I was thinking to myself, okay, we have no background. There's no previous actor or anybody that's ever fulfilled the Conquest role. This is the first voice actor.
Yeah, it's like translating a book to screen. Like you like there's notes, but there's not actual track records.
Yeah, and I thought, like, everything that he was doing and saying is like, oh, this sounds like the menacing Conquest that you've seen from the comics before. I haven't read the comics, mind you, so
yeah.
Okay, don't crucify me. But it was just kind of strange to me because it's like, okay, we have nobody that else has ever played this character before, and then yet the whole entire internet had the problem with the voice, which I was kind of thinking to myself, this isn't like Batman, who is. Why am I blanking on his voice actor right now?
The most quintessential voice actor for Batman ever, and there will never be a replacement, Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace, Kevin.
Yes, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy.
Dude, this is not like trying to cast a new actor for Kevin Conroy as Batman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or even like Superman for that matter, because like in mine, like for Superman, it's either Tim Daly or George Newbern. Those are the two. You probably don't know who they are. I know who they are.
And who was casted for Conquest? What was the name?
So I'm not gonna lie. This is what I was getting to. I do not hate. I enjoy like what I've liked to see in other casts, maybe. But the person that was cast for Conquest is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is not only a regular for The Walking Dead, like he's a great actor. He was also in The Watchmen. Back in 2010, he played the comedian, which I just rewatched because I like The Watchmen. But he's a great actor in his own right, and he can definitely be menacing. He has the ability to be menacing. And I don't know, I kind of like this version of, I mean, you know, it's the only version you have, but this version of Conquest, because like from what I saw reading up on YouTube and stuff like that, Conquest is basically like a sadistic serial killing Viltrumite. Like this dude is just out here like, they point him in a direction and he removes that direction.
Shit, see, people didn't like... It didn't quite fit the mark in their mind for some reason. And that was like kind of the weird thing for me. It's just like, well, there's no basis. I get that way. Like, I guess you could have had a more menacing actor to play that character, but like it didn't. I thought Jeff did a phenomenal job with the role.
Yeah, dude, he's a great actor. He plays it really, really well. He plays the more sadistic kind of like scaled back, like it's more actions, not words. He's not going to go out there and start snarling in front of Mark and stuff.
No.
But like, I ain't gonna lie. If you seen the episode, you know the part with Omni Kid, you know what I'm talking about. That's a creepy scene. It's good though. It's a really good scene. It's just it's so weird. And all of like the TikToks and stuff like that made about it. It's cool. I think a lot of people, and this will get to what we're going to talk about later on, but a lot of people have been using AI, especially their vocal models, to be able to see and test what different characters could sound like. And so that's where the whole Conquest thing came from, was because people were using AI to basically take Josh Brolin's voice or Ryan Hurst. No, Ryan Hurst is going to be one of the actors for Thrag, but taking Josh Brolin's voice, somebody else I can't remember, but they were basically like taking that and then seeing how he would sound, voicing the lines from the comic. So that's like the "prepare for my arrival" worm. They were using that and basically grafting Josh Brolin's voice and
interesting
to test it out. And like as far as the fandom goes, they were like Josh Brolin, or at least one of them. They were like, you gotta be this one. And so when Amazon casted Jeffrey Dean Morgan, they were all like, such his voice doesn't sound like him. And it's like, okay, but one, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is not a bad actor.
No.
He's an amazing actor. He did a great job, in my opinion. And two, it also is kind of like it's like the disconnect, you know what I'm saying?
How dominant of a character is Conquest going to be throughout the entire series anyway? Oh, man, he actually takes a huge portion, doesn't he?
No.
No?
At least from not what so
in the comics?
The creator, I'm going by the show, because like I haven't read the comics. I was actually, speaking of, I went to Barnes & Noble the other day to try and get it. They didn't have Compendium 2, they had Compendium 3.
Oh, clear.
And I was like, I could pick it up, but I don't want spoilers that far ahead, because the compendiums are like Bibles. They're this thick.
What?
Yeah, all three of them. And I saw a picture on Reddit not too long ago of like where we were chronologically in the comics in relation to the show. We're like barely through the second compendium. We haven't even hit the third one yet.
That's so wild.
And I was like, oh, we got a while to go.
Wow.
Oh, more show. But as far as Conquest, I'm pretty sure he comes back in season 4. It just my prediction about it because of the way that he ended. But as far as being like a super major player, I have no idea. But I do like to get back to go all the way back around the character development, specifically Mark.
Okay, so this was the kind of the foreshadowing that his dad was kind of putting on him on the Thraxian planet. It's like, if you don't kill them, they're going to kill you.
Exactly.
He's trying to change Mark's mentality a little bit. And that's where it's starting to change for Mark.
Exactly.
He did not want to kill. He was kind of trying to play the classic superhero.
Or at least the one that's the more fair, middle-of-the-road superhero that doesn't, like, the more idealistic version of a superhero.
Yes, and he wasn't trying to push hard. So throughout season 2, it's like, it wasn't up until, what's his name? The doctor.
Angstrom Levy.
Angstrom Levy. What a bitch. It wasn't until Angstrom Levy that Mark finally snaps, because, like, now we're actually targeting... And for Mark, it's starting to become the mental break. I think there's the mental breaking point for Mark.
Is like, yeah, because I think like with Angstrom, it was like what you said. It was a break. It was a glimpse, but it wasn't full bore, right? Because it's still Mark trying to hold on to a bit of this more utopian view of I can be a fair and balanced superhero, and no matter what evil throws at me, who I am is going to persevere. And it's like, well, yeah, you may persevere, but if you expect to be able to survive against people that are trying to not only kill you, but everyone that you know, you kind of have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
And that's why I liked like the final turn. And like I said, with Nolan, when he finally turned around and joined Alan, it kept you on the edge of your seat because you were like, come on, dude.
Just embrace what you're feeling right now.
And with Mark, it was like, bro, you are like Super Saiyan God mode without any of the training thus far. You are Timothy Chalamet right now. You are Hemi Neutron right now.
It was gonna take a little bit for Mark to break. That was what. Well, I mean, if you were I was paying really close attention to this in season 3. So Mark's character development in season 3, it seems like something at the end of every episode had gone wrong. in that moment. That's what the conversations on the rooftop with Eve were about. We're doing a little micro reflection every time something happened in season 3. Like something he couldn't stop, or it was out of his power, or Mark, you didn't do the wrong thing, you do the right thing. And he's questioning whether or not he's a good person.
Yeah.
And this season 3 was all about exactly what we were saying before. It was the character development, especially for Mark. This is where we're trying to break Mark down.
Exactly.
Season 3 was all about mentally testing Mark and finally getting him to snap.
Go over to the other side.
Because he went over to the other side at the end of season 2 with Angstrom Levy. Because Angstrom Levy, he pinched a nerve. He went after his mom and his little brother.
Yeah.
And that was too close to home. Angstrom learned from that moment on. Now, how the frick he survived that encounter is...
I'm not gonna lie. Angstrom Levy is I think he comes back in
I'm gonna come back to this character because I got some complaints.
Yeah, it's probably like there may be a little bit like, again, I have to go back and like look over a bunch of stuff and kind of like research again because I'm a very forgetful person. But
Sure.
like I like Angstrom Levy as a character because he's not ridiculously overpowered in the physical sense. He's ridiculously overpowered in the strategical sense. And to me, that makes him annoying. But annoying, while being effective, is better than being kind of brutish and not getting anywhere.
Dude, his motives are a little all over the place. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, they're kind of like strung about. The basic way that I interpret it is that like beforehand, when Angstrom was doing all this stuff, he was basically trying to create like his version of utopia using all of his dimensional selves, and then trying to get the Mahler twins to be able to help him do that. But
What goes wrong?
yeah, when the initial explosion happened, he got like a glimpse of the fact that like, okay, there's one good Mark, there's 99,000 other bad Marks, and shit just went haywire. Now, because it's, I can't remember if they touched on this in the show, but he's like, his judgment is so clouded because there's so many examples in dimensions and stories of his character or his dimensional self dying from Invincible. Yeah, being slighted by Invincible. So one good egg versus 99 bad eggs still isn't that much of an argument to be fair, you know what I'm saying? Because there's still the chance that Mark could turn. But it's also the fact that now, especially after his first major battle with Invincible, especially after getting beaten to death, where it's kind of like, I don't care if he's a good person or not. I just want to kill him now. You know, and it's like, oh, all right, never mind. You know, okay.
No. It's okay. So my biggest issue with Angstrom Levy, season 2, we are just learning about him. He wants to use interdimensional powers for good, and he wants to build his super utopia, whatever. And then we're moving in, and that's all ruined by Mark when the Mahler twins, that whole factory kaboom.
Yeah.
And then we're moving on from the factory explosion to him being totally upset about it. He's upset at Mark, but then he's also exploring the other dimensions, finding out that Mark is evil in every other dimension except this one.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, now we want to kill the good Mark because you're in a dimension with Mark. So now Angstrom's angry at good Mark, and he's doing all he can to kill him, ends up getting his ass kicked by the end of season 2.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because his judgment is clouded, because when the whole thing blows up, it's all of his dimensional consciousness merged into one.
And then, but like, that's just the other thing. It's all merged into one, and sure, I'll give you that argument.
Yeah.
But in season 3, that really ticks me off. It's like, okay, now we're gonna go collect all the bad Marks, which I hate, which I fought you over in season 2.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna go get those other bad Marks. I want to hire them out, give them whatever they want, and I want to kill the only good one.
Well, technically the only good one. I think it's because of Levy's skewed perspective now, especially because he got the piss beaten out of him by Mark. Look, respectably so. Like, you know,
yeah, sure.
Fuck with the family. Like, I'm sorry. You know?
But now he's working with all the other Marks.
And I think it's because now it's like he understands that this Mark is the only one that has any significant relevance, but he's also the one that has given Angstrom the most pain personified, right? Like, because it would be one thing if all of his dimensional selves were still split. But now, because basically all of them have been killed in one single action, and this dimension's Mark Gratian had a hand in doing it, he's like, nah, you're special. I like you. I will make your life hell. And it's basically now he basically understands where he's like,
Our mark is special. So that's like the logic behind it.
it's our mark. Like, our mark has been responsible for so many bad things recently in Angstrom Levy's life, including the fact that there is only one Angstrom Levy now. At least to my knowledge, there's only one now because all of the rest of them blew up. So
Sure.
so there's kind of that vendetta mixed with the cloudy thought of having all of these different memories of different Invincibles and not being able to distinguish wholly, on top of getting the piss beaten out of him, right? So it's like you've got like a threefold trifecta. It's not like the most super solid of like actions and intentions toward a protagonist, but it's just enough to be like, yeah, I could see it. I could see it. If I found out that there were other me's and then I was like, yo, I'm gonna try and create this cool little utopia thing, and some dude was like, probably shouldn't do that, and then it blew up anyway, I'd be like, all right, well, I'm evil and I can't take responsibility for my actions, so I'm gonna throw that on you.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Just
my thought.
I still feel like the whole confliction of motive is still kind of prevalent.
Yeah, I mean,
Regardless, it's just like, okay, so now you're partnering up with all the bag marks to stop the only one that was technically good. Like, you couldn't use those interdimensional powers to see like at least what our mark was doing.
well, again, intentionally good in other people's eyes, not Angstrom's at this point, because now it's turned from like, I need to do this. Like, I understand that the destruction of the universe and reality.
Oh, so you think that Ingstrom Levy still thinks all the other marks are bad?
Yeah,
that was pretty obvious. But
Yeah.
like, he specifically wants this particular mark that he in his eyes thinks is still pretty bad.
Yeah, it's turned from a dogmatic view of trying to reach utopia
Okay.
and trying to avenge not only his past selves but his friends and everything from all the other marks. It's turned from that into a vendetta.
I now see what.
Yeah, now it's like, well, I was gonna be cool with you, and then all this stuff happened, and then you killed me on top of it. Now I'm gonna make the rest of your life like chaos.
I'm gonna get all the other bad views, and
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, it's still kind of there, but it's like kind of is it like I was a little conflicted with that character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I kind of found him to be like the most annoying villain.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's only like two very annoying villains. It was the guy that controls Earth,
Doc Seismic.
Doc Seismic, and then
Apparently he comes back in season 4.
oh damn it, that was some more Doc Seismic. If out of all the villains that Mark needs to kill, that one needs to go for.
You're like, you get rid of this one, turn a new leaf. Turn it on that one. And do it right now.
Yeah.
With that said, though, moving on from more annoying villains.
Okay.
Of course.
Conquest is probably the best. Conquest was one of the most badass villains, and
He's cool.
thus far.
He's like the best setup henchman for the ultimate villain, which is Thrag, right?
I can't wait for Thrag.
I can't wait to see. This also goes into like one subject because people have already started doing the same thing again about voice casting, and they've done it with Thrag. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit more invested this time because people started throwing around. Oh my God, what is his name? The voice actor for Tai Lung.
Get your phone.
Hold on, I gotta look it up. Hold on.
So while you're doing that, I'll kind of just like go on my rant as to like,
Yes.
oh gosh, I have to remember all the episodes. I should have had a picture loaded up on the screen over here just to see the timeline. Next time we talk about a TV show, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a little bit more of a presentation and make the timeline per episode to see what happens. To display on this whatever over here. But name some of the villains that got seriously hurt, injured, or messed up.
I found the actor for Thrag that people have been throwing around because a lot of people have been talking about, obviously, Josh Brolin is one. Ryan Hurst, who you probably haven't heard of, also a Walking Dead regular. But God of War, did you ever play or watch through God of War, the new one?
Yep. Didn't he play Thor?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And I'm not gonna lie,
That's gonna be good.
he's and I really like it. But the other one that I'm not gonna lie, that I would love to see personally because it's near and dear to my heart is Ian McShane. Ian McShane is the voice actor for Tai Lung.
Oh,
Tai Lung is.
I would not see that.
I love Tai Lung, dude. Wait, have you seen Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah.
Okay,
Of course.
Good. I was gonna be like,
We're watching Kung Fu Panda.
Oh no, I definitely seen Kung Fu Panda.
Dude,
Up until I think I've seen like 1 and maybe 2.
I think you really only need to see 1 and 2. It really got into, again, the corporate stuff of like, let's just recycle it. Let's recycle it. It's like,
So let's recycle Trek.
yeah, that's
Everyone knows why.
I don't know anything about that yet. Actually, I haven't even watched any of the Shrek movies.
You never seen Shrek?
Don't count me.
My bro, you need to. That's one of the movies that you actually need to.
I do need to see it. Yeah, you know how I was raised, got like Christian all the way up until this point. So it was like, mom was like,
What's right?
I was like, what about SpongeBob? You're like,
Shrek is Wish.
and I was like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I don't know.
But I don't know. I guess it was part of the whole like post '80s movement of like conservative Christian movement of like no bad things, no bad things. And I'm like, how is SpongeBob a bad thing?
What, everything's witchcraft?
She said Harry Potter was witchcraft.
I mean,
Kind of half true, but like it's also Harry Potter. What? Anyway.
it's also like big computers and VFX. But anyway,
Exactly. to round off Invincible, since we've been talking about it a good long while, I'm excited for season 4. My dream is if Thrag is voiced by Ian McShane. That is my goal. My close second is Ryan Hurst. That
yeah.
Anywhere in between that, either those two, Amazon.
I kind of see. I kind of envision Thrag to be a little bit more complex, not so much brute sounding.
Yeah, very like
I don't see him to be a brute.
he could be, but it's also like I think that's where Ryan Hurst shines a lot is the fact that he is very, very like laid back as far not like laid back as in he doesn't care, but like I can't remember the correct term, but he's very laid back and very, even with all of his like I'm just going off of the voice acting for Thor, right? He obviously is a brute, a blunt weapon, a blunt instrument, but
Right.
he knows when to turn the heat up and when to turn it down. And that's why I think he would be a great voice actor for Thrag, because I think Thrag at this point, because, spoilers, you need to go see the show if you haven't seen it. The end of season 2 in the outbreak of the Viltrumite prison. You remember what was said? What Nolan told Alan?
What did he tell him?
There are fewer than 50
Viltrumites, pure-blooded.
which is like pure-blooded at all. So the Empire is not thousands upon millions strong. It's like
50.
it's like
That's it.
the quantity of a mid-sized old folks home. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a couple of people, and a cat and a little bit of teen spirit. That's about it,
Yeah, so I think that's why they want to procreate with humans, because they're probably the closest to Viltrum.
And my buddy was talking to me about this because I was like, wait a minute. So Mark is not as obviously as strong as Omni-Man, but he just beat Conquest. Yeah, how does that even happen? And he was like, okay, so the running theory, I can't remember if this is like established in the fandom or not, but he was basically like, because he's read the comics, and he was like, the reason why Mark is able to overcome a lot of these supposedly stronger enemies now is, one, because he has a better understanding and grasping of his own powers and his own limits, but two, because of adrenaline. Because Viltrumites can't naturally process or produce adrenaline.
Oh,
But
interesting.
humans
Can.
So
So that's why when he has those spouts, those angry spouts, he's the only Viltrumite that.
and that's why when Conquest said, when he like had Mark in a chokehold one of those times, he was like, you think if you get angrier that you'll get stronger? That's not how this works. It is how it works. Just not for you. Only for Mark. Which, like, technically doesn't work for Oliver because he's Thraxan and Viltrumite. But
Well,
that's
yeah.
the other running theory that I have.
That's we'll see how the Thraxan. I know he eventually starts to lose his purple pigment over time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think his brother actually loses the purple, starts becoming normal.
Interesting. Fact check it in the comments. I don't know. I have no idea. But here's my theory, though. Here's my theory about Oliver. And this is, I'm waiting for this to happen. And if it doesn't happen, I won't be mad, but I'll be like, oh, is Oliver himself, because this is why I think it's so cool with just Viltrumite DNA in general. And then being like, it's basically like peanut butter by itself is pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? But you'll put jelly on it. You'll put something else, peanut butter and chocolate. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many possibilities. And I think that's what it is with Oliver specifically. And here's my thing that I really hope happens. I really hope that like it comes around into the story at some point, because Oliver, right, he is a combination of Viltrumite and Thraxan DNA and biology, which means that one, Thraxan, and Nolan said this in the first season when he was about to fight Mark. The older we get, the slower we age.
Yep.
Like the more solid we become, basically, right? We become more enhanced at that point, right? So if that's one of the big keys to becoming a stronger, more focused Viltrumite, Thraxans only live for like 9 months.
So, he's going to become really strong really, really quick.
So the chronological aspect, or like the time aspect of him growing and maturing is like 100-fold to 1 ratio.
Oh.
So that's why it's like by the time they got back to Earth, when Mark and Oliver got back to Earth, dude was already like forming sentences and could fly around and kind of understood his powers a little bit at like 7.
Yep.
You know, like Earth years. So
He got him really young, and now he's starting to really use them.
exactly. And I think that's going to come into play later on in the series, because here's my thing is, if that is true and he excels and ages at a faster rate than Mark, yes, he'll still live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but he will be infinitely stronger than any normal aged Viltrumite could ever be, because he is progressing at 10 times the speed.
I think what happens in the comics, though, is that Thrag, he eventually starts to populate the Viltrumite numbers with Thraxans, and he starts raising a little army. Because so he eventually, because they grow a lot faster,
Yeah.
well, and they adapt a lot faster, he can get an army in bigger numbers in a shorter period of time. So then that's where I think the Invincible series is going to start getting a little dangerous.
Yeah, I'm pretty smart. I predicted this, by the way.
So like that's why the ending of season 3 was really important.
Yeah.
When Mark finally changed his mind as to how he felt about taking life.
I'm not gonna lie, when that started happening, I was like, are we witnessing?
Yeah.
Is he shooting from half court right now? What's going on?
Oh no, the training wheels are coming off.
Dude, when he was like,
Season 4 is going to be extremely violent. I'm calling it right now.
well, dude, and like the last scene with Conquest, he's like,
Got more than enough fight to finish you off.
and then Mark just starts headbutting him. I was like, oh, we're here. Oh, we're here. Oh, he's like,
He's throwing everything.
this
at
is
him.
Black Air Force energy. Like this dude is like coming at it with everything.
Yep.
Finally, which that's what it goes back to what we were talking about before to finish this whole thing off, is the writers understanding what tension means and how to build it, and what it means to like that I can't remember if it's called like dramatic irony or whatever I learned in with class, but it's like something that we know the reader doesn't, right? We know that eventually Nolan was gonna have to either turn around or die. So you're waiting for that. You're waiting. And it's like, come on, do it. You got no time left. Do it or don't. And when he finally does, you're like, yes. But like with Mark, it was like, I was fully prepared for Mark to get like near death and then have to be pulled away by somebody, right? Like I was Cecil transporting him somewhere. I was some sort of Hail Mary.
Yeah, I was not ready for Mark to
The Mark
make
was
a pretty nasty turn.
bro, I could do this by myself. And I was like, okay.
Dude, season 4, I'm telling you right now, I haven't read the comics, right? I just kind of know a little bit of it just based on research on YouTube. But like, I know season 4 is about to get extremely violent. And I think it's going to leave his dad surprised.
I am really hoping. I don't really want any spoilers, so I'll have to like cut it off there because I don't want any spoilers. But I am ordering the second compendium because we basically already watched the first compendium, right? So it's like, I'll pick that up later, but I want to read through the second compendium now because I can't wait. I'm impatient. But I'm just like you said, like I can't wait for season 4. And I just looked at it the other day. It should be coming out in 2026.
It's gonna be a little bit of a wait.
A little bit, but it's been pretty consistent. And here's what I want to get as far as the tail end. It, like moving aside from the story, getting into more of the behind the scenes, right? So Amazon, as it stands right now, has still not like greenlit this project to become like the primary moneymaker.
Oh no.
Which is like, I can understand because it's a lesser known IP and it's a 2D animated show and you'll get a lot of turnoffs. But dude, the fandom that is behind this show, the momentum that is behind this show, I don't understand why Amazon is not giving a bigger budget to this show. Because right now,
I find that really interesting, actually.
yeah, because like right now, at least the last time that I looked at it, one of the videos that I saw from behind the scenes, if I can find the video, I want to link into the description if I can find it. They only have like 12 animators working on it.
What?
Yeah, for this big of a show, there's only 12 animators.
It's impressive.
That's why it's like, okay, season 1, always like more times than not, first time's the charm with these big budget, because like we have to get it right. We have to get it right. That's why the animation in season 1, especially the finale, looked so incredible, especially that final battle.
That's what I was about to point out. So, like, if you actually were observing throughout all of season 3, it feels like a majority of like season 3 felt a little bit cheaper. I've seen like fans start doing like relights and reanimations of like
Exactly, yeah, and
what
reshading
the
and stuff like that.
yeah, like what the shading and what the animation could have looked like if they had a bigger budget.
Exactly.
And then but like if you watch the ending of season 3, last episode, that's where all the money went.
Oh yeah,
All the money went to
to that final fight.
the final fight with Conquest.
Yeah.
Especially the motion where like when you see the Mark pull up his hand and he says stop, it's like the animation style was completely different.
Oh, dude,
I felt like I was watching an anime.
And right before that, like 10 seconds before that, that initial hit that Conquest hit him with that rocked him, one of my favorite like animation scenes is when it's the shot right after he stops moving and he tries to get up. It's some of the most fluid, like you can see him like that. But it's all like, there's no block. There's no blockiness to it. It's all like semi-fluid and stuff like that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a 2D version of Spider-Verse animation, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like not fully fluid, but it's more fluid than like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's more fluid than what it's been.
Exactly. So that's what I heard last, is that there's like barely 10 to 12 animators working on this show, and that the budget hasn't been approved for a greater amount of people to step onto it. I don't know, dude. Like, I understand the money aspect, but from like from a business perspective, I'm not going to claim to know what Amazon's budget is, but I would venture to guess you haven't had a lot of like good home runs recently besides The Boys, and The Boys is finished now.
Is Invincible not considered a home run? How did it perform?
I think it's considered a home run in the fan base because like they've wanted it for so long, and rightfully so. And as far as like the showrunners, they're being pretty good as far as like staying consistent with the comics and taking creative liberties here and there to enhance the story. But I think it's just a thing of like, until it shows up on big man's radar in any conceivable way, he's just not going to do anything. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to claim to know. Be like, well, he's got this much of a budget. Why doesn't he just take that budget, put the budget right here, put that right there? Like, I don't know what that is, but I don't know, dude. Like, it's kind of the thing of
I think they've done everything right so far.
well, from my personal perspective, it's like you have, at least in my mind, because we saw this with the Clone Wars, nobody paid attention to the sequels. The entire Rey saga, I don't care about, and neither does any true Star Wars fan. It's dog water. It's dog water.
I don't think
Clone Wars,
that's
last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, generational run, entire fandom was focused on that. And the
it was brilliant.
so good. That, and then the other 2 seasons of whatever squadron it was, I can't remember, the
Rogue.
not Rogue Squadron, the one that came Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Yes, Bad Batch. Those 2 last 4 episodes of Clone Wars for the finale, and Bad Batch, at least the first 2 seasons,
Right.
that and Tales of the Jedi had the entire fandom in a chokehold. That's where most of the numbers were, at least if I remember correctly, as far as like sustainable numbers. So I would think with a show like Invincible, you would want to, especially if it's kind of like, if you're going to tug on that fishing line, you're like, listen, tug ain't going away. What am I going to do? Just, oh, well, I guess we'll just sit here and wait for the tug to be even more. No, start reeling it in now. Start putting a little bit more money into it. if you put in 24 animators, which I don't think would be that far to stretch for Amazon, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Even with all of its expenses and overhead, I'm guessing just off of like first glance that they could do it.
I think the show's going to need to require the metrics, which in my mind, I thought it already hit those metrics.
I think as far as storytelling and pacing and everything else, all the important elements,
I'm talking about the consumer metrics. Like how many people are actually watching the show? How many people are rewatching it? How many people are talking about it? Like how does the market feel about Invincible?
yeah.
And then if Amazon sees it for themselves, then yes, throw more money, throw more animators, throw more resources into the show and benefit from what you reap.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sorry, reap what you sow.
Reap what you sow and then take all the sows.
It really just kind of hammers in. I was already under the impression, I haven't done that much research into it, but I thought Invincible was already at that point. Yeah, I'd be wrong about that because I've only seen like nothing but good things. Okay, I know there's like some complaints about what Mark's girlfriend in season 1 and season 2. To be honest,
I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't find her as like that annoying of a character, but I was just like, all right, she's gone. We already know he's gonna hook up with Eve. Like, this is not.
I think for me, like, I don't know. I passed a lot of like the undesirable traits. It's just the one thing of like waltzing in and being like, listen, I'm gonna come completely clean with you. This is why I haven't been around. I'm a superhero. And she was like,
I already know that.
Yeah, I already know that. Wait a minute.
So why did you say something?
Then why did you say something? Well, I was hoping. That is some bullshit, bro. This is a relationship. What are you talking about? I was hoping you were going to say something. What happened to communication? What are we talking?
How you talk to each other? You know, the relationship kind of, I thought, goes both ways, right?
Exactly. Which they then...
I don't know how this works in 2025 anymore, but like, isn't it both ways, right?
Which they then retconned in season 2 with more of like, as soon as Anissa, the female Viltrumite that came down, right?
Oh yeah, that comic's fun.
Well, the entire like, this is why I liked Mark's relationship with Amber afterwards, is because like, I'm not gonna lie, the whole thing of like
them breaking up was actually kind of sad.
Well,
I thought it was kind of sad.
Yeah, because it's like first off, trying to defend the point that Amber was in the right because, you know, she already knew Mark was invincible. No, she's fucking not. What are you talking about? First off, the whole thing of being unfazed after finding out he's a superhero. Second strike is, I already knew. If you already knew, why are you expecting him to read your mind? What are you talking about?
He's a superhero.
Yeah, he probably got that power. Why did you use your mind powers, huh? Why did you read my mind? But it's just like, I don't know. That was the only part that I had trouble with as far as like, because we obviously know, especially in this day and age, like all the race swapping and stuff like that, it's kind of just par for the course. If you can write a good show and you can write a good character, you can get away with a lot. It's only when you're writing and your character development fails.
I gotta hold my tongue. You gotta hold.
Well, it's just kind of like the current like meta, and it also goes from like the Harry Potter thing. But like we'll talk about that later. That's why I really liked how they shored it up, because it basically both characters came to an understanding, and it was like, yeah, this is what people would do in the actual world if this happened. Right? It wouldn't just be, well, I'm mad at you forever because you're a superhero and you tried to like disclose your secret identity so that I wouldn't be killed, and you're mad about that. Like, kick rocks, dog.
I don't. No. Honestly, the Amber, her whole dynamic didn't make much sense. I don't know how much content there was from the original comics to really throw into the TV show over. And they tried to flesh her out probably a little bit more. I don't think it worked as well as they thought it did. I know the writers admitted defeat at some point when it came to Amber. And that's why season 2 Amber seemed a little bit more chill than season 1.
Well, yeah, because it's like, how are you going to be able to justify like somebody being that, I don't know, that self-righteous in a sense of like, I don't care what you say, this relationship matters over everything. I'm like, okay, this man is canonically kind of the savior of your world at this point in time. But anyway, I like the fact of how they shored the relationship in season 2, even with the whole relationship breaking off. I like the fact that it became an understanding. And you could see, obviously, this relationship is not going to work with anybody because he's a superhero when she's not, right? And she even said, I can't live in your world like this at the end, right? When they were going to break up. I can't live in your world.
I mean, it's kind of reflected in Mark's mom, too. But Nars' mom was able to tolerate it. Not a lot of people would. No, I don't think a lot of people would be able to work in a relationship like that.
Yeah.
And like at least Amber tried, which it was just like, okay, well, I kind of like the fact that she, like in season 2, she put a little bit more of an effort into it rather than her being a boss ass.
Yeah.
I don't like that boss ass attitude. I honestly just get it out of here. I don't want to deal with that.
Like I'm sorry. Like it doesn't matter what you say. I'll be like, "Oh, it's progress. It's progress. What are you afraid of progress?"
That's not progress. That's degenerate.
Like I'm not gonna lie. From anybody's perspective, it just comes off as annoying. Like, sorry, dude.
Like I'm just this.
You wouldn't like me if I came in here and it was like,
Admittingly, I did like season 2 Amber. It's like, okay, yeah, we're calming down, and I did feel sad for her. Especially after the breakup, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, all right, we saw that coming.
yeah, but it was like good though. It really was kind of like it came in stages of like, okay, the scheduling's not going to work. Okay, quality time is just not there. Okay, being able to communicate, no, 2 different worlds, and finally like. The Anissa coming down and basically be like, I'm gonna kill her if you don't come with me. And be like, all right, well that's the last round. I think we're good.
Okay, dude, Anissa, that was kind of a scary part for me. I was just like, oh, all right, yeah. So whoever this chick just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's a very interesting character.
She becomes really interesting pretty soon too.
I've had conversations with my buddy about this, and we've talked about like, should they include that in the story? For those of you who don't know, there is a specific story between Mark and Anissa later on that gets a little bit, shall we say, dicey. Very dicey.
Wonder if they're actually going to have the balls to show it in the show.
I think they might not have a choice. Here's my thing.
Because it plays a huge part in something else.
That's what I've heard, and I'm kind of like,
yeah.
We might have to.
So I'm not going to give any spoilers in this episode, but it's like, yeah, the Anissa storyline is going to... I don't know how they're going to do it for the Amazon show, but
I think the way that Amazon has handled, like, sexuality in the show is honestly been a breath of fresh air because, like, I'm coming from the experience of, like, almost every show, if it's live action, you're just going to have full nudity. And after a while, it like, even like the, ooh, okay... Even that wears off. It's like, dude, okay, we don't need this as a story plot device when you just need filler.
We've talked about this before in a previous.
Like, dude, everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So I like the fact, and plus it would be like, I'm sorry, in 2D animation, it's not just so obvious. Like,
it's not just blind sex.
Well, and it's like
that's the one thing Invincible kind of got right is that it's not just boom. Okay, I actually watched Tiny Cop for the first time yesterday night. Have you ever seen that movie?
Is that
older 2000s? I don't know the actor's name personally, but there were some scenes in there where they're just like, boom, naked woman. I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like,
yeah, it's like that literally doesn't serve the story any purpose whatsoever.
I mean, like, whereas like environments,
yeah, but like Invincible kind of did it in a format that wasn't like, yeah, we know what's happening, but
well, it relates to a lot of good storytelling in my opinion. Like, if you have to it's kind of like comedy. If you have to explain your joke and why it's funny, it's not funny.
Yeah.
So if you have to show us what's going to happen, like, oh, these characters are in each other, they're in a room alone, guess what's going to happen?
Again,
never mind, we're going to show you. Like, we don't need that. I don't need that.
Again, like treating the audience like they're stupid.
Well, and it's not only that, I think it's also like, here's my base take. I think it's just an excuse for voyeurism.
Yep.
And dude, coming from somebody who is in that world, who struggled with that world, takes one to know one. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and I remember having a conversation with my buddy about this, because we were talking about the idea of like, just full-fledged nudity and, like, basically softcore porn scenes in shows. And I told him, because, like, but that's why I still haven't gotten through a lot of, like, Game of Thrones. I know it's a phenomenal show. I just can't get past every other scene.
Well, it's pervy for the sake of being pervy.
Exactly. Great.
Like the sister scene.
Exactly. And it's
like what was that for?
And it's like, listen, we're all human. We all have that side of us. I think it's just the fact, like, listen, dude, I can get it everywhere else. I don't need to see it in my show too. Like, good Lord, let's have a little bit of self-respect.
Yeah.
But that's why I like Invincible, is because it's like, it's implied, it's not shown. Because we know what's going to happen. I don't need you to show me.
At least they kind of turned it into a joke with the moderator.
Exactly. That.
Oh yeah, okay. They're a little busy right now. We're just gonna
so fucking
else. Like, okay.
so funny, bro. Like that was. Oh, well, and here's this fucking cat thing. That fucking can't come from. All right, this is weird. Let's go back to it's so funny. Like, and I that's why I like Invincible, especially because I don't think anybody can get away with like full-fledged nudity in a 2D scene. Like, I was at that point.
Well, we know that you're just trying to be.
Yeah, at that point, we know what you're doing it for. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I actually, I was trying to get through like the cartoon Blade Runner, like a couple nights ago. I fell asleep.
The cartoon,
the anime Blade Runner.
Sure, Blade Runner anime?
No, sorry, not Blade Runner. Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell.
I don't know why I said Blade Runner. No, I actually just like I was trying to watch Ghost in the Shell, and they have like a ton of nudity in that cartoon. I actually eventually fell asleep. I actually fell asleep on my.
God told me to go to sleep.
I was like, there's like this. I remember this vaguely, where it was just like a bunch of trains going. It was like some naked blonde chick that got like hit by a truck or something, and then that's when I was just like, yep, I remember the point where I passed out.
And you're like, I think I'm gonna tell.
I was on my couch. I got a little too comfortable.
Yeah, and I think there's always gonna be argument. Oh, well, you're saying now you're talking about this in our movies. It's always been around. Well, you have an excuse for that, huh? What's your excuse for that? I don't have an excuse. We all know that it's been going around for generations. There's all that stuff back in the Greek and Roman times too. We get it. We know that it's always been here.
I think like what Invincible really did though, like other than the handling with the nudity, it's all the other sub character plots. Or what the heck am I saying right now?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Other character subplots.
It's just it's a nice breath of fresh air to just have like a story. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it's cool to just be like, we know what's going on. Like, I don't need to be shown. Just tell me the story. It's a good story.
I like the robot story.
Yeah,
I actually like his story.
Robot story is cool, bro.
Rex was a character I did not like starting in season 1, and I was just like, the goat.
They killed my goat. Rex explode. And also, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is in the comics or not, but like Rudy basically be like, I'm changing my name to Rex in his honor. What?
That was a little weird. Especially at his funeral.
Yeah, at the funeral.
Like,
what?
And then they're like, then Adam, Eve, and Marker's sucking face after the funeral.
I mean, I don't really care about that.
I was just like a little, I don't know, like that's a little inappropriate, but like, yeah, no, robots, I'm changing my name thing to Rex at the funeral. I'm like, yeah. And then Adam Eve was just like, he was my first. I was like, what is this funeral, bro?
I'm not gonna lie, I can understand the perspective, but I thought it was funny because of the memes that were surrounding it. It's like all on TikTok where like, he was my first everything. Dude, just like, what you thought? Yeah, here's everything.
What do you mean by that, Eve?
Watch it.
What do you mean by what you saying? What you saying?
I don't know. I don't have that much of a problem with it because it's just like it just is what it is. But my only gripe was like, changing your name from Rudy to Rex.
Well, that was a little
holy glazed dog. No, I'm kidding.
If you were at a funeral and somebody decided to do that like, wouldn't you just be a little weirded out?
Well, I mean, in like naturality or something. Like, I'm changing my name to Gertrude in honor of my Aunt Gertrude. I'd be like,
okay,
all right, that's cool.
It's the most like, I don't know. I'd be like, what time is it?
But I know that I know at least as far as like the whole the Rudolph Connors storyline from him to Robot. I know this will get hairy later on in the story, and I don't want to spoil anything. And
I don't know actually much about that.
Then I'm not gonna spoil it. You guys don't spoil anything. If you know what's going on, don't spoil it. But like, I don't know. I'm just really excited to see what it's gonna be, and I'm happy to have a show that's not only an animated show, but like one that's obviously good and doing well, and keeping people engaged and has a good storyline. It's just
I think Amazon should continue it.
Well, obviously, continue. I think they should just be granted more funding. Okay, because dude, it's one thing. It's not the biggest gripe in the world, right? Because what matters is the show at the end.
It's not a small time animation. There's a lot of people watching this.
A lot of people that goes into this, and I think that's what it's not the be all end all. If they still kept the same level of animation for most of the shows, and then spent the rest of the budget on the finale, Whatever. Cool.
Sure.
At least we're still getting the show. But it would look really cool, Amazon, if we could have a little bit crisper of an animation. Just a little bit. Because it's a labor of love, right? And obviously, it's a super intensive process. From what I researched, it's a heavily intensive process. There's so many steps that go into just creating a frame.
2D animation's a totally different beast.
Exactly.
It's a totally different beast. It's not like 3D like what I work with. Maya, where it's like I can keyframe and I can just kind of go back and... No, dude, when you have to hand draw everything, that's not easy. That's not easy at all.
Especially like when you're expected to do that in a super, super confined time frame. Like trying to get it. And that's why like that was the original controversy with season 2, is the fact that like they took so long to release season 2, and when they finally did, they released half the season. And I was like, what are we doing, bro?
I was a little
it's just to build hype right now. It's not. You guys are not done. And that's fine. Like if that
that's fine. Give them all the time that they need.
Yeah, dude, because seriously, I just want a good show. I don't care. Like, I get deadlines, right? And I get that you're eventually going to lose people's interest the longer it draws out. But like, do I want a finished product, or do I want people to not be disappointed? I'd rather have people be disappointed and have a great finished product than rush everything and be like, oh, we got it. Oh, we got it. Like,
A delay has actually been a really good thing, especially when you're like, delays are good when you're making games. Delays are good when you're making movies, because the customer benefits from a better product.
Well, yeah, it's a labor of love. And like at the end of the day, I understand there has to be a balance. It's a double-edged sword of profit motive and art creation.
Yep.
Like you can't just sit there and say, I'm going to create this unless you are backing everything, right? So you have to have a studio with money, with capital behind it to do that. But I do think, like, we've seen this play out in the entertainment industry into the 50s and 60s where, yeah, you still had good title runs on different movies. You had the John Wayne series going all the way from, like, the 40s into the 60s. You had, like, some of the great epics like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia and stuff like that. But at least from what I researched, the majority of the movies that came out in the 50s and 60s were duds. Because it got into this whole thing of Hollywood and the corporate industry being comfortable and stable. It wasn't until we got to the 70s that we started seeing a new explosion of culture and creation and ideas, because people were starting to be like, okay, this is stale. We need to start taking risks again. George Lucas is probably the biggest,
biggest risk taker of all time.
Yeah, as far as like trying to market an idea to studios.
Nobody except 20th Century, nobody was going to fund it.
And at that time, 20th Century was the new kid on the block, which I think is really, really cool, because we all look at that and we're like, 20th Century, that's like an old-ass company. No, it's not. Universal's been around since, like, the 30s, dog.
Oh, that's
like
old.
Yeah, exactly. So it really, I'm hoping to see that within this new generation. I feel like we're in a shift, especially. So
I think right now is going to be a shift. A24 is like A24 is like one of those companies that's like super young, but they're making some of the biggest hits.
Yeah, they've had a good strength. Yeah, they've had their duds. But I think it just comes with the territory of becoming a bigger company, because they're way bigger than they were back in like 2017. But they are one of like the industry leaders as far as like, that's why like when you and me talked about it, was more like we think that a lot of the stuff is just going to go back to like indie development. It's going to become all these smaller creators with their ideas.
And this is a good segue into our next subject.
Yes. We talked about Invincible long enough, but everybody go see the show because it's an amazing show.
I actually recommend it. It's actually one of the better cartoon as
I am hooked on too. Well, actually, no, I didn't get you hooked on it. I just made you finish the rest of it.
Oh yeah, I like watched season 1 with my neighbor, and then like we've been trying to get into season 2, and then it was just like, all right, I'm gonna just kind of finish this off on my own before Sunday so we could actually talk about it.
Yeah,
and then it was good show. Go watch it.
Anyway, what else do we have? Because we got that. Oh, I just want to touch on a little bit the decline of the boys, because this also kind of relates.
So this is more the show that you know.
Yeah, because I don't know. I never read the comics, but Garth Ennis is at least in my opinion a very kind of he's not Alan Moore, like the creator of Watchmen, but he's kind of in a subsect of that where he's not part of the traditional foundation of DC and Marvel, right? He's kind of outside of those confines. And from what I remember, Garth Ennis kind of just like hates superheroes, hates the idea of them, and that's why he created the boys. And I haven't read the comics yet. I do want to at some point just to be able to get a better feel on it. But I love The Boys when it came out. Season 1, Season 2, amazing. At least in my opinion. Season 1, Season 2.
So you told me I should actually give it a chance, or
Wait, you
like, no, I haven't seen The Boys.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. You gotta
I
watch
actually
it.
have to watch that one.
Season 1 and 2, because at some point, like it's like every good idea, it starts off as a good idea, and then if you don't keep it closely guarded, people are going to take that and take advantage of it. And that is unfortunately what ended up happening with The Boys, right? Not to say that The Boys comic was never inherently political. It's one of the undertones that surrounds the entire story, because the superheroes are very closely connected, you know, obviously with Vought, but Vought is very closely connected with everybody in Washington because it's the big, you know, it's the representation of the big corporation taking over civilization and stuff like that.
Right.
But again, I don't know, dude. It might be TDS. It might be whatever's, you know, in the air. It might be just because, you know, the one political side of the aisle just has a bone to pick. But it just slowly turned from like, oh yeah, this show is good with underleaning political meanings and stuff right here sprinkled in, to see like the end of season 3 into season 4 is full on just like, we're just gonna make fun of the other side politically. Like we're
so this kid just kind of dived into real world politics and the kind of.
It basically, yeah, they basically started just going it incredibly.
Are you guys done? Are you guys done over there? Are you guys done like making fun of actual politics? Can we like actually like do a little bit of escapism, like what these TV shows and movies should be?
Well, and not to say that politics is not something that can't be brought up in storytelling, but it's like, I think for me, it's how you temper and how you build with political narrative, because like there is such a thing as doing it right. The Watchmen comic, and to a certain extent the movie, does political undertaking right. It does it in an objective sense of the political themes are coded to the story. They could be applied in regular life, but they are meant for the story.
Okay.
And The Boys basically, and I think even the head showrunner said he was basically like, you know, if you're right leaning in any way, you could F off, because, you know, like this type of story you're making. I'm like, well, there goes your fan base.
All right. You just gotta, dude. You're just targeting. You're actually losing a customer.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you're trying to lose a customer on purpose. That's like the worst part.
Yeah. And it's very like with The Boys, like I said, first 2 seasons, awesome. Really, really cool character development, especially with Homelander. Really like Homelander. I love Homelander. Especially his interpretation in this show is very close to comics, but not completely accurate. And I like the directions that they took it. I like how you find out later where his real origins come from and stuff like that. I'm not going to spoil anything too heavy for you, because you got to watch it. Remind us next time if he hasn't watched, decline him in the comments. Anyway, I love you. But it really got into the weeds of like, we're gonna use this as a dog whistle, basically. We're just gonna use this to voice all of our grievances. And it was like,
Oh, get over it.
it was really sad because, you know, it was heading that way. And you're like, okay, but you've already had it throughout the series, so it's not like something that I'm going to completely be, you know, surprised about. But then they really started being like, hey, here's this new character that we created that is literally like a right-leaning, like, news personality into a superhero, and we're going to use that to make fun of.
Do they got like Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson up
They
there?
basically made it. Like, there's a scene at some point where they go to like this right-leaning, implied right-leaning like superhero convention, and they're talking about all the tropes of aliens are gonna be, hey, gotta get your put your American hats on, hey man, these people are not what you think they are. And it's like, good lord, dude, at this point it's like, it's not even storytelling, you're just mad. You're mad, and it's like, I'm sorry that you got pissed off. I'm sorry that you didn't.
They can't leave things at home. They can't leave their politics at home.
And I mean, not to say that this doesn't happen on the right too, because the Daily Wire did this recently.
Dude, I think the Daily Wire. They kind of messed up with Brett Cooper too. If you haven't.
Oh, dude, Daily Wire is like.
Yeah, they're starting to spiral down. Yeah,
It's been my gripe too, because I really thought that like
Yeah, they implemented politics into a lot of their stuff, and
Exactly.
that's where I was just like, you're okay. Like I thought the whole platform was trying to build on escapism and trying not to do those things. And that's what you were trying to escape the left from, and then you end up doing it on the right hand side. It's like, dude, this is not
exactly.
This is such a boomer thing to do.
Yeah, because it's basically like you're saying that you're better than this one side, and then you do
the exact same thing
when you get the power. And it's like, that's why, like, with a lot of the productions that, like, the Daily Wires produce and stuff like that, it's like, I appreciate the thought, but it's like, I remember when, like, Run, Hide, Fight came out, that movie a while ago that was about school shootings and stuff like that, and, like, I think it's an interesting concept to make a movie about. It's a very, very hard thing to make a movie about, but they did the same exact thing. They just started putting rhetoric, like, towards the end of the movie. And it's like, dude.
I just think it's kind of cringe a little bit.
It really is, because
It's like you're doing it on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing.
Well, you're a conservative. What would a conservative superhero series look like? It would look like a regular fucking superhero series without any of the bullshit in it.
Yeah, that's all.
A good story. I don't want to go.
Oh, trust me. I thought What Is a Woman was a freaking hilarious thing to watch.
Oh, because it's not trying to be a Hollywood motion picture.
Yeah.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, it's a docu like and it's like like a weird mix between a docu and like a reaction, and I felt like something out of MTV or something like that. It kind of felt, it was like funny to watch real world people react to those things. But like, yeah, I don't. Then that's kind of the thing that it sounds like The Boys is suffering from. They're implementing the same thing. Oh, you know what? You start calling them the Daily Wire and see how quick they change that around.
Well, and that's the thing, is because they basically turned Homelander into an artistic interpretation of Donald Trump.
Oh,
Which is like,
great.
like, okay, it's funny. It's funny. It was funny for the first half, and then they were basically like, I don't have to apologize for anything. Yeah, actually, yeah, they've kept you down for too long. And I'm like, all right, so here we go. It basically turned into like a bullhorn, a grievance session for all the writers, and it was kind of like, all right, dude, well, I'm sorry, like, you can keep claiming that the sky is falling.
I actually need,
but it doesn't matter, dude.
I need to do a little bit more research as to like, because I'm not the biggest, like, I wasn't like the biggest Brett Cooper consumer, but I just I just learned like recently she's no longer with the Daily Wire or something like that.
No, a lot of people aren't.
I think a lot of people have like moved away. It's like, okay, cool, you're gonna start a studio that's like gonna be different. And it's like, oh no, you're actually just kind of the same thing. And then Prime doing that kind of ordeal with like Homelander, The Boys. It seems to be prevalent all throughout Hollywood, and this is something that entertainment and people in the entertainment sphere need to move away from. Hey guys, we're not trying to do this right now. We're really not trying to keep splitting up or trying to shove the spectrum down people's throat. You know what I mean? It's like nobody wants to watch that.
Well, exactly. Just tell a good story.
Yeah.
Why do you got a dog whistle? Yeah, on both sides. Why do you got a dog? Just tell a good story, dude.
Calm down.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I don't know, dude. Because like obviously, all the conservative friends that I had were like, dude, Run, Hide, Fight, bro, groundbreaking.
I didn't even watch it.
I watched it because I was like, I'm a cinemaphile and I really like it. I really like to watch movies. It's something I'm passionate about. You know this, but it's like it had the same pitfalls, and especially right now with the Daily Wire. Jeremy Boring is the head of that snake, and that dude is out now. Like he's
is he out?
Yeah, he's gone.
Oh,
he stepped down to like more of an advisory role because nobody ever truly leaves. But yeah, it sounds like he's been like the biggest like culprit of all of this. Not to say that some of the other personalities are not innocent in all this, because they got along with some of the stuff that he's kind of like thrown out there. But Jeremy Boring is definitely like he's like the problem with a lot of this stuff. And like you said, what starts out as a great idea, eventually, if you're not going to keep consistent with your principles, is going to turn ugly. And it did. But anyway, getting smashed out by the politics and stuff like that. The Boys, good series for the first 2 seasons. Season 3 kind of just missing mark. It's like lackluster. It has a lot of good elements into it, but the season finale is kind of
right. Let's talk about like. Okay, well, like we said, the future is going to be indie, and what is feeding, or what is going to be one of the number one aspects of indie right now?
Oh, 100% AI.
AI.
100%. Dog.
And this is actually where a good chunk of the conversation I wanted to stir and went into. This is actually our next subject is AI and its role in the future of not just our technology, but in jobs, careers, entertainment sphere, individual use. How is it going to affect everything? But anyway, like, let's actually talk about the AI sphere a little bit and what it's going to do in this industry.
I think for me, here's like my opinion on AI. And I've told you about this before. I think AI is going to be what the internet was to us in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Because we've all had different stages in human technological evolution that is kind of set the standard for the next 200, 300, 400 years. You know, we had the Bronze Age, we had like all the, I can't even remember, I'm just going to say the Bronze Age as an example. And then when we got to the 1900s, we had the Industrial Revolution that happened. And then when we got to the 2000s, it became the internet age, or some would say the information age. And now we're on to the age of AI. And I think it's going to be the same exact thing. I think, yes, because, you know, there's always the comments of, well, hey, listen, we saw Terminator. We know what's going on. Skynet is coming.
I don't think it's going to be quite like that.
I think it is definitely a huge possibility because, you know, we are nothing if not. I had this described to me by somebody. Humans are great at adaptation, but we're horrible at preparation. Horrible.
Yep.
Like, we could see it coming 2 miles down the road, and we're like,
But we're not going to do anything.
what if it doesn't hit me? You know, and you're like, okay, but it's going to hit everybody else. So let's prep a little bit. But no, we're really good at adaptation. And I think that's the main concern, is that there is that possibility that AI is going to fill that aspect of like our like dystopian thinking. But here's my opinion. I think, like I said, AI is going to be what the internet was to us in the early 2000s, because nobody can argue. The internet has revolutionized the world as a whole. As far as communication goes, as far as material is sold, even the economy. Economy is like 90% of the internet now.
Yep.
Even with all of the physical labor jobs that we still have, the highest paying jobs deal in technology.
I think where AI is really going to hit is more the devious jobs.
Yeah.
More the things that take, not devious, I think it's the wrong word for it, but it's going to take on more of those
jobs.
The monotonous jobs. That's where it's really going to start taking a hold and effect.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing as like when the industrial age happened and we had the invention of the automobile. Yeah, of course you have people that were in horse-drawn carriages and be like, well, what, me and Remington here are out of a job. And it's like, okay, but one, you can't stop it. And two, like, isn't that the entire point? To be able to keep creating and inventing and one-upping yourself to be able to create a higher standard of living?
They really thought that the car wasn't going to replace the horse.
Exactly.
And it did.
Exactly. And even the
And who are the people that got left behind?
Exactly. Like, nobody technically got left behind, just the jobs that they did.
Yep.
And I think that's what you were talking about is coders' jobs specifically. Coding is going to get taken over.
So so this is actually the big subject that I wanted to talk about. I was actually watching, I think it was the prime time that was talking about this. You know, so I wanted to get into how coders are going to be affected by AI. Because I already have a couple of friends that are coders, and they are already feeling the weight of AI taking over. One of the main complaints from senior developers about their junior developers at this point is that junior developers actually don't use proper syntax while coding. They are coding illiterate in a sense. They can't
even know what that means.
So pretty much syntax is like all the little symbols, like your semicolons, your forward slash, backward slashes, and how you utilize them throughout your code. And there's a bunch of other things too. I really don't want to dig into that because I'm not the biggest coder either. Because AI cannot do absolutely everything.
Well, yeah, of course.
But we're not. That's just the other thing. It's only going to get smarter the more you use it, and then it's only just going to keep getting better and better and better. Now, as to what extent it can hit, I don't know. Again, I'm not a coder.
Yeah.
Do I want it to hit the coder space? Personally, me, yes. I do want it to throw punches at the coding space because I'm under most of the impression, especially after talking to a couple of my coding buddies, that the majority of coders don't actually do much. Let's say you have a team of about 100 people. 80% of them are about not doing anything or not really pulling that much weight. 20% of them are like, yeah, they're like doing some things, but not a whole lot. Then you have that like, or not 20%, it would be more like 15. And then like the top 5 or top 2% or top 2 people are doing the majority of the work. Let's think about like X, for example, when Elon Musk bought out Twitter. Let it sink in. But like when Elon Musk ended up buying out Twitter, what were the majority of people doing? He let go of 80% of the company.
Yeah, because they were technically like non-essential at that point, right?
Yeah, well, he kind of did the same thing like he's doing in Doge right now. Give me a list of 5 things you did last week.
Yeah, show me that you're actually...
Show me that you're actually working.
I can't remember where I heard it from, but there was also a recent story. I saved it somewhere, but it was going into one of the departments. Okay, I'll touch on this next episode, but like basically going into one of these departments and finding out that like 7,200 people were working from home, which is like a maybe or not if they were actually doing real work. There was like 40 people that only came in.
Yeah, so it's like a good chunk or majority of coders supposedly don't do much. There's like the top end senior developers that are doing everything.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, and what kind of weight are the junior developers pulling? This is actually something that the Primetime was touching up on, is that people are, quote, forgetting how to code. Because they depend so much on Copilot and ChatGPT and other applications to do a big chunks of coding. And for every line of code that you make, is going to be some sort of fix up later. Especially as the application that you're trying to develop or whatever that tool is or whatever that you're trying to make gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So then you have to go back in time and fix things from like what was the terminology was you're fixing somebody's code from 8 years ago that no longer works at the company. So you have to go that far back to fix up mistakes. That's where I think AI is really going to start coming in. I think AI is going to make things not just, I don't want to say future-proof, but it's going to identify easily and in a quick amount of time where those mistakes are and instantly fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do I think junior developers stand? I don't know necessarily. I'll tell you this much, like in the state of Washington, I think a lot of people are priced out of the housing market because of the Redmond Microsoft Center or the Redmond campus. That's actually where a good chunk of these coders and developers that they, by the way, they hire a majority of these guys from overseas.
Yeah.
Because they're cheaper labor that way. And they're easily outpricing everybody out of the housing market.
Yeah, that whole argument of the with the H-1B visa program, even Elon Musk was defending. I'm like, dog, you know how corrupt this has been for the last like 20 years at least.
They're not, I'm not, they build a lot of Microsoft campuses overseas just to save on payout.
Of course.
Yeah, it's like, okay, but like, rather than that, because that can get extremely heated and extremely difficult and sensitive to talk about. Of course, I totally get it. What are a majority of coders doing? Well, if the answer is nothing, then what is AI going to be doing?
Exactly. Picking up the slack.
It's going to be requiring less people for less work. And that's what I'm hoping AI is going to start helping people do, is that we can get a product more quickly, a little bit more thoroughly, and essentially like scale back on the coding venture, because I think in front of coders, I think physicians and doctors actually make the most here in Washington State. If I have my numbers right, I'm actually going to have to start doing a little bit of research.
You'd probably be right. Medical field is still pretty high up there.
The medical field is still the highest here in Washington. Then it's going to be the coders and software developers right behind that.
Yeah.
That's like one of the fields I want AI to hit the most, because I feel the less people that we actually have in the kitchen, especially when developing new applications. This is especially prevalent in gaming, by the way. If you've been watching a lot of Asmon Gold's content, especially lately, the biggest issue with these AAA studios is that there's too many people working on a single game. And I totally agree with that. There's too many chefs in the kitchen, and not everybody agrees as to what product that they're trying to make.
Yeah, not getting it done fully.
No, not at all. So like, where is AI come into all of this? What I think AI is going to do is that it's going to make life easier for a lot of coders. But at the same time, we're going to start seeing the detriment results of that. That being coders not exactly knowing every little thing about what their own code is doing. because coding is very much like an exercise. It's a muscle that you have to go to the gym and work out almost every day to fully understand and remember what you're trying to do.
Interesting.
It's not something that you can just pick up and remember for the rest of your life. It's not like that at all. So that's where I think another aspect of where AI is going to hit is that memorization. It's going to be able to keep a better notes and tabs as to what everything is going on. And the AI can process more information than you. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
It could read through the whole server in probably a couple of minutes and tell you exactly what's going on with whatever project. And I'm kind of being a little arbitrary with this because there's kind of a lot that goes into it, not a lot that I fully understand.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm kind of like diving into a subject. I'm diving into a subject that I don't know everything about, but at least I have like a semblance of an idea. I'm just kind of talking as a consumer and a generalist.
Exactly. I'm not gonna claim to be able to be an engineer on this or tell you all the different aspects of what goes into like ChatGPT. But what I can say is that world hasn't blown up yet, and if people think that human civilization can get worse, it already has.
It's like I'm doing sales back on my current job, right? When I sell people a laptop, for example,
Yeah.
ask me if I believe that people actually understand what they're buying when they buy it.
Do you believe people are actually understanding what they're buying when they buy it?
Not at all.
Whoa. Yeah, because it's go ahead.
It's the same when I was at BMW. Like, ask me if I believe that people fully comprehend what they're buying. No.
Yeah, it's like no.
Now, it's the same with that's especially going to be the same with AI because it's going to be so many variables, so many subjects that they think it's kind of the only thing that people could really learn about it is going to be like from TV shows and movies. The only reference is that this is the most evil thing ever perpetrated on humanity, period.
Yeah, where it's kind of like the philosophical representation of like the Antichrist almost, where it's like it's going to be the end all be all.
It's not that.
I don't know how true. I mean, it could be, but I don't know, because we never truly know. But what I can say is like, I feel like we're obviously entering another age technologically and in terms of civilization. We're obviously entering into a space that we don't know as much about, or at least the majority of people don't know as much about. But I don't think that this is going to go the way that people think. No, but I think it's going to be like how life ends up most of the time. It's not what you think it's going to be. And it's not even what you expected. It's something that completely. It's like, oh,
as a matter of fact, AI is going to end up making your life a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of the new Samsung Galaxy S25.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the new phones that I thought was really interesting. It's not because of the chip, it's because of the Gemini AI that they've implemented into it. Now, of course, you're going to hear from a lot of seniors that's like, oh, I don't need AI or any of that stuff or anything watching me. It's like, but they don't know how to use their phones. Like my dad, for example, prime example of like somebody that probably doesn't know half of what his technology is actually able to do, and he needs help half the time of setting it up. That's not a bad thing. It's just there's a lot to take in.
It's super.
I actually think the S25 is exactly built for him. It's built for people like him. I watched a sales rep. He was like going through the Galaxy S25. He's like going on YouTube. He asked Gemini, "I need you to transcript this entire video and save it to my notes." Then the phone did exactly that. It transcribed an entire 30-minute video and saved it to the phone's notes. And then he just went to his phone's notes and he said, "I need you to summarize this entire thing in 2 sentences for me." And it did it just like that. That is the kind of ease that AI is going to be able to help you out with.
Yeah.
You can have it help you cook. There's an example of like, he was trying to make like banana bread. And it's just like, hey, I'm trying to make banana bread. I'm all out of bananas. Like, is there any substitutes?
Yeah.
And he could interrupt this AI as it's talking, just to be like, but this and that and that and this. And then it would be able to adapt as he's talking. And then it saves a copy of the entire
transcript.
Yeah, of the entire conversation that you just had with it. That is going to be the kind of applicable use that AI is going to have on humanity. The only danger to it is people are going to probably forget how to think for themselves. Like the coders, they are forgetting how to code for themselves.
Which I think is also it lends credence to the fact that people are like, well, AI is going to take over jobs. And I think it lends this idea of a zero-sum fallacy of that there are only these things that we have and that's it. And it's like, okay, but didn't Microsoft just create like an entirely new quantum computing chip with an entirely new element? How does that factor into a zero-sum fallacy? And on top of that, that line of thinking, if
quantum computing is going to be a totally different monster.
well, and to finish out the point, I mean, like the idea of zero sum, of there being a definite end. As far as this conversation, I know we can talk about philosophy and heaven and hell and, you know, infinity and stuff like that. But as far as like, we're just talking about resources, right? If we're talking about it from a zero sum perspective, I just don't think that's feasible, because like I've heard from a lot of people, they're like, oh dude, once AI takes over, all the jobs are going away, dude. And it's either positive or negative. It's like, bro, we're working towards a universal basic income, or it's going to be a dystopia land because like there's going to be no jobs for anybody. No, because it doesn't matter how well AI does something. There always is going to be the human aspect to existence that AI can never fully comprehend, at least in my opinion. And like
that's the problem with everybody's interpretation on AI, especially people that want universal basic income. Everybody has a worldview, and if something's not moving toward their worldview, then it's a detriment to humanity.
Yeah,
It's in an LBL. That is such a wrong perspective, such a terrible perspective to have.
well, I think like, I don't know.
There's some point where you have to admit that what are we talking about here? Do you understand what's going on?
Well, I think it's kind of like, you know, people talking about how, like what we said with the example of the automobile, when Henry and Ford it basically took the idea of the automobile and then put it into mass production. We had two things. You had the idea of an assembly line, which created a lot of the structure for the 9-to-5 job, which, you know, whether good or bad, helped a lot of people and brought a lot of the American economy up to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? Because it provided a simple, fast and easy source of income. You didn't have to be the owner of a business to be able to create money. You just had to apply for something.
And that's another thing. Like, people don't know how cars work, but they still drive one every day.
Exactly.
That's going to be the same case with AI.
Yeah.
You don't know exactly what's under the hood or what exactly it's doing. There are going to be the people that do know what it's doing and do understand what's going on. That's your mechanic.
Which I also think at this point, like if people are concerned about that, there should be a heavy culture on, well, if these guys are mechanics, then we all need to at least learn how to be a mechanic in our own right. Because if it's the middle of the night, there's no auto shops that are open. It's just you.
It's just you.
And if you don't know how to work on your car, you're kind of screwed. So it's like, I feel like with the AI, if that's what people are worried about, it's like, okay, well then educate yourself. Get in those fields, or at least start researching it. My dad is like up the wall about this stuff. He knows everything there is to know about this stuff, partly because he's like, just going to end in a fireball. And I'm like, okay, great, nice conversation. But, you know, I still, you know, he's still an endearing guy.
So is AI going to completely replace coding? I don't think so, because there's still going to be people that need to understand what's going on underneath the hood.
Exactly.
But is it going to absolutely decimate the majority of the coding positions or some of the smaller time jobs? I think it actually has a sheer shot of doing that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, okay, that's going to be one less occupation. People are probably going to have to, you're not going to be able to get as easy into software. We're going to probably have to put your focus or do something else.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like, people think, oh, yeah, but the trades will be safe. I don't know. Boston Dynamics robots, being able to have robots that could completely walk and operate with fingers, they could, I mean, line workers, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, you think your job's going to be safe? Like, no, dude, your job could probably be done by a robot in 30 years.
Well, again, I'm going to go for the turkey on this example, going back to the automotive example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people, I mean, I would hope people know at this point that the majority of jobs inside of the automotive manufacturing industry are not done by human hands. The base assembly of a car is not done by human hands. It's done by robots.
Yeah.
So it's like, it really is like a question of, okay, this tidal wave is coming. Are you going to swim in it, or are you going to let it kill you?
And so the thing is, like for line workers right now, snowpud.
Oh, yeah.
Like Snohomish PUD or something like that.
Yeah.
It's, okay, so the robot won't be able to do exactly what your job is. That's up until they change the infrastructure as to how people get their electricity.
Yeah.
Is it going to be poles on wooden towers forever, or is it going to be something else entirely different that it can be put into an assembly line and it can be more easily maintained?
My big thing
It's
is,
going to be something, it could possibly be something entirely different than what your scope and worldview is currently.
well, and this is why, like, I agree with a lot of Michael Schellenberger on his points as far as like the nuclear capability that we could have if we embraced more of the idea of nuclear energy. Because imagine, I'm just gonna spitball here. I'm gonna be an 8-year-old kid again. Imagine this. Imagine if this entire house was powered by one miniature reactor. One miniature reactor. We're not talking about something that blew up Nagasaki. We're talking about a reactor. Because majority of people, and even myself, to the extent of knowing the harm that is caused by reactors, is nowhere near what. Again, getting all the information from the movies and then expecting that to show real life. Like, we haven't had a major reactor incident. I think we're the country that has like the least amount of major reactor incidents, and like as far as being safe, nuclear power is, at least from what I read, safer than normal production of just electrical power.
So yeah, nuclear energy, or like that's more digging into like the snowpud thing and like electric. But the example, like what am I asked, like there's different methods of electricity and how people are getting it.
Well, and it's not even that. It's the fact that it's like, listen, at some point, your personal idea of income is going to change. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about how you earn it. Because at the end of the day, if you're not owning a company, you're working a job of some sort. So my question is, like what you said, if we're going to have like automated robots that come out and, let's say service power lines and stuff like that. Okay, well, the landscape changes again. Let's say we moved from power lines and all this overload stuff for communication and ground wires, and we just put it specifically for miniature nuclear reactors. Okay, then most of the electricity industry is gone. Yep. At some point, we are going to get better at doing the things that we've always done, just in a better, more efficient way.
And then people are going to find something else to do with their time.
With AI, let's say this, right? Let's say, well, AI takes over the construction industry. All of these, they're humanoid robots that do the exact same jobs, or at least partially human, that do the exact same jobs, doing pipeline, doing frame, foundation, doing concrete, all of that stuff, right? Okay, well, nothing is, I think I heard this in far as like one of the laws of engineering is like, the thing you're making is going to break eventually. Your job is to be able to make sure that you make it efficient to the point that it breaks the least. Because eventually it's going to break down. Whatever is made of carbon, material, matter, through the passage of time is eventually going to break down and fail. Not to mention just the laws of physics itself. So, okay, we might not have construction jobs. You might not be a journeyman. You might not be an apprentice. You might not be a concrete layer. But you'll be going into school, if that's something you want to do, to educate yourself to be able to get a certification to be the serviceman on the robots that do it.
Yeah. So like people are threatened because it threatens what they are doing currently.
Exactly.
Okay, you're probably going to be doing something else. I know it's hard to move on, especially since humans take years to develop a new skill. That's why you go to college for 4 years to get a degree. And college is expensive. Because this is how this is probably what's going on. This is what goes on through my mind, right?
Yeah.
You're going to take me out of game development completely. Okay, I spent like how many years in college, how many years developing my skills just to have it be overthrown overnight?
Yeah, all for nothing.
I understand. There's a little bit of frustration there. But now I got to come up with something else to do. Okay, AI is going to kind of be a little bit different. So coders, majority of them are wiped off the market. There's not going to be as many jobs for coding in the near future as people think, in my personal opinion. And then it's going to be especially true when quantum computers come into the picture and they can start processing large language models.
Yeah.
Once quantum computers comes into the picture, like what was Google's quantum computer that
Majorana or something like that? I can't remember the
was that the one? I think that was the one that was able to handle 1 million years worth of computation or at least 1 million years that it would take a current supercomputer to do, and it did it in less than an hour. 1 million years down to less than an hour. So you can feed a quantum computer all the possibilities of today's data. You can give it all the data sets. You can give it all the information, and then you can ask it, hey, XYZ, what's the result? And it'll be able to not only process the answer that you're probably looking for, or wow, that's probably a really long, no, that's a
wrong way to put it. It's going to be able to process and then come up with a much smarter answer with more possibilities on the back end. It's going to be able to do a lot more than what you're even thinking about.
That's gonna do it even more better. Gonna do it more better.
More better. Yeah, exactly. If I had to put it in dumb...
No. I get what you're saying.
More better.
You know what I'm hoping for? Is, but I mean, this is something that I would like to see because I'm a huge nerd, right? I would like to see like quantum AI figure out, because right, if we have something that's like a super computer that can figure out calculations that take, like you said, millions of years in human time space and shave it down to 4 hours.
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to figure out, okay, what do we need to be able to achieve faster than light travel?
Yeah, it will. This thing is going to map out the entire human genome. It's going to be able to understand. We're going to feed this thing a periodic table. We're going to give it all the chemical sets, all of human data. We're going to give it the Library of Alexandria that it can process in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Use it as reference toward medicine or other operations or forms of treatment.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, for lack of a better term, it's going to be a time of the impossible.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I think
Cures to cancer, autism, Down syndrome, like things that are considered detriments.
Yeah.
If AI can map out exactly like what proteins and what parts of the DNA that cause those aspects and prevent it entirely.
Yeah.
Through like whatever certain forms of treatment or whatever methodology it so chooses, those things are probably going to get wiped off the map.
Well, and I think Google is already doing this. I mean, Google's a double-edged sword, especially with their track record within the last 10 years.
And I apologize if that's if that sounds insensitive. This just
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell us in the comments. We'll go back and forth with you in the comments if we want. I love arguing with people. But like, I think Google is already doing this with AlphaFold 3. Their other company, Alphabet, that is mapping out like the protein structure within the human genome, which is like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
There's a lot that goes inside the human body.
Yeah. And so I don't know, as far as AI is concerned, I think there are definitely the do's and don'ts and the bewares and the, stop here this signs.
We should probably not be utilizing it or implementing it in maybe war machines. Possibly, yeah. I would say. But I'm going to tell you this much: the country that implements it in their war machines first is going to be the by default winner.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the tale. So I mean, if you can get control of the majority of resources, if you're the one that comes with the breakthrough first, it's probably going to be a little bit more in your favor, at least, right? Because everybody, I've heard this 1,000 different times, and when I find the historian, I'll bring his name up in conversation, but I can't remember it right now. But he's basically talking about how like Germany winning the Second World War was almost even from the beginning was basically a non-starter. It was never going to be able to do that. The only reason that people feared the German army at that time is because Hitler was so like gung-ho and basically calling a lot of the other countries bluffs.
Yep.
Right? But they still didn't have the resources. They had the technological know-how. They just didn't have the resources or the support or the trust of all of their other sister nations that were in the Axis powers. We eventually won, not through our breakthrough in technology so much, although we did have those, but because we were able to work together in greater numbers and be able to come to a better of an understanding with our allies. And that's the big breakthrough. That was basically like hey, listen, our Hail Mary is teamwork. What do you got? And I think it could be like that in the future, especially I think AI, again, from a negative aspect being thrown into the fray. Yeah, dude, it's like bringing an iPhone and then going back into like the 1500s, dude. You disintegrate a peasant if you showed him like a meme of Harambe. You just disintegrate on the spot.
He wouldn't understand what's going on.
Exactly. You showed a 15th century peasant 100 gex, he would evaporate where he stood. You know what I'm saying? Like there's definitely certain advantages. I just don't think it's going to be what people expect it to be.
No, I don't think so at all. I think it's going to make people's lives a lot easier. It's going to be a lot less mystical tasks.
Yeah.
Mystical word.
Exactly. It's the same thing, like taking away a lot of the jobs that could be done better. Not disrespecting nobody, but could be done better and more efficiently.
Yep. And I was
With this thing.
we were talking about this last week. Like, I come from a game developer or wannabe game developer background. I graduated from LW Tech to do, and I mostly specialize in 3D work.
Hey, you graduated from LW Tech. Oh, you're hot. Wow.
All right, that happened.
Anyway.
Yeah, pretty much everything that I studied for in terms of like what little code I memorized and like how to work on a game engine, how to do 3D work in Maya and Blender and ZBrush and all this other all these applications. I think if I was running a head of the game studio, right, and I had the choice between hiring 100 3D artists or having an AI that can develop those same in-game assets for much cheaper, much faster, I'm going to do that instead. I'm sorry. Like, my job would be completely taken over.
Yep.
Not,
Exactly.
and especially if it can model better than me, texture better than me, and do it within an hour.
Yeah, where it's gonna take. Which was the one that you said that took the longest? That you had to like basically open up every structure within whatever asset.
Oh, that's every 3D asset you ever work on. So there's a process called UVing. Like, let's say
Yes.
UVs.
Yeah.
It's like you take a cereal box and you unfold it, unpack it on all of its sides. So imagine a cereal box with nothing painted on it. So in order to put paint on that object, you have to project and you have to unfold it entirely.
Yeah.
And then you got to paint it. And then you fold it back together, and then it's then the bada bing, bada boom. You got a gun that looks like metal and stuff. Got scratches and everything.
Cereal boxes.
I'm really dumbing this down.
Well, yeah.
That's like one of the things as a 3D artist. I've even commented on like some, I think it's like what Cryptic Visionary is this dude's Instagram handle, and I like commented on his things before. It's just like, oh, that's a cool model. Now UV it.
Well, and I think because you got to talk to me because I've got like 2 brain cells up in here. So you gotta put it in like block form. You know what I'm saying? Like put the shape in the correct thing to do it.
It's like that's the one job I want AI to take as a 3D artist. I want some AI to just like read my model and just UV it for me, because UVing is probably the most time consuming task for me.
Well, and to get on top of that, like when we talked about the that creator, I can't remember his name, but I want to find out the creator of the Astartes project, the shorts project.
Yeah,
watch that.
Warhammer.
Yeah, you guys need to watch that.
If he had today's tech and some AI helping him out,
oh, dude, he'd make a series.
he could probably do it by himself.
Exactly, and he wouldn't have to go to any bigger studio. This is what we were also talking about. This is one of the main points, is because what we're talking about getting back to more of the indie developer space.
And that's where AI is going to benefit people the most.
Exactly. I think AI is going to become that because, if we have an idea for something, right? If we wanted to make, like, a Star Wars short film, right?
Sure.
And we were like, well, we don't necessarily care if it's live action or if it's fully animated or fully CG. We just want to make one. Okay, so what do we have at our disposal? If we have an AI that can completely do all of that stuff as far as rendering, UVing, shading, all of that stuff, composition, lighting, everything all at once, and we don't have to worry about it. All we got to do is just feed it like, hey, here's the scene structure, here's the story, here's the character development, here's the lines, the dialogue, the pauses, if we just feed it that and then tell it to do everything else, why do you need another studio?
I don't think the AAA studios are actually, I think the AAA studios are going to get hit the most. I think indie is actually going to start taking a sharp upward ascension. And the biggest reason I'm saying that is that, well, one, look at what AAA is putting out nowadays with all that manpower, all those hours, all that money, and they can botch project after project after project. It's the same with what 343 did with Halo Infinite. It's like you guys spent more than half your time developing a game engine, and then the other half of your time actually starting to build the game. And then we're all over the place in terms of the narrative, and we're all over the place in terms of how things are being rendered out and how the engine works. And what was it? I was told by one of the devs on that team that they didn't even have a Control Z, which is an undo button.
What?
Yeah, they didn't have Control Z with their Slipspace engine. When it first came out, they did not have a Control-Z. So imagine being a developer and you can't undo what you just did. Now you got to start over from your last save point.
Should have just used the real file.
Yeah. Well, like that's bad. That's really bad.
That's crazy.
I could, and then I want you to think about it like this. It's not just you. It's like 100 other people that are like working on the same game scene as you, and they're submitting stuff. So let's say you're 5 hours into your day, and some dude is 5 minutes into his day, and he messed up like 55 minutes ago and submitted that on the project. Great. Now, not only do you have to start not maybe you, but you all have to go back to the previous save where that dude messed up in his first 5 minutes.
Oh.
That is terrible.
Yeah, that would set me off.
And then you wonder why 343 switched to Unreal Engine for their new Halo title.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. Ha! Well, sorry, it's going to be Halo Studios at this point. And, I'm not entirely throwing them under the bus completely. But,
No, not too much. Just all of the restructuring and
like
everything else that...
I know, we kind of, like, diverged from the original topic.
No, but, it's kind of...
It's kind of like too many chefs in the kitchen. There's unfocus. There's no sense of focus in the AAA space. That's actually kind of where I was going with this. That AAA is too unfocused. They're all over the place. They have too many executive meetings that don't really get anywhere. And then there's like people that actually don't understand what's going on. The people on the bottom are doing all the work. That's actually really good. I was watching an Asmund Gold video talking about that today. It's the people at the top that can't make the correct decisions. And then when they do the layoffs, people need to start getting laid off up here on the pyramid, not down here.
Exactly.
Everybody up here needs to get fired.
Well, and, everybody has a specific skill that they're good at. If you're the owner of a company, there's a reason why you're there in the first place, unless you were, handed it. Even then, I'm sorry, it's just the way that it is. But it is, like, one of the gripes that we've talked about is that somebody that's at, a airplane company, somebody that's at the top who stayed there for a long time, whether they practiced or not, it doesn't matter like when you came in or when you came out. If you're not doing the things that you want people to do right now or don't have a good understanding,
it's leadership.
Of course things are going to go awry. Like if you're down on the floor manufacturing stuff every day, even if you're the most horrible person, you probably have a little bit better of an understanding, a base understanding, than say somebody that's on the board of directors because they haven't been there enough to be able to still stay current. And you can lose the practice value of it. You can put the training wheels back on if you don't exercise that, like we said, exercise that muscle enough. So yeah, it really becomes like there has to be this communication between...
Maybe the manufacturing methods change along the way. As you were up here, some things down here changed by quite a bit. Now you don't fully comprehend as to what's going on down here because you've been out of the loop for like 10 years.
Exactly.
So you're going to go back and it's going to be like, this is all completely foreign to me now.
Exactly.
Too many chefs in the kitchen. Too much disconnect.
Exactly.
And that's like, especially for gaming. And that's another thing that AI is going to be able to help cover. It's going to be able to shorten time down, shorten deadlines down. Now, don't shorten the deadlines on purpose because just let the AI do most of the work. And then work with the current deadlines, let the AI do a majority of the work, and maybe shorten the deadlines based on when people finish.
Exactly.
That's all. That's simple as that. I thought it was. I don't know. In my head, it's an easy concept. Maybe somebody is gonna put something out there that's gonna prove me wrong. Go for it. I'm open to correction. I'm always open to correction.
Of course.
But like, I just again indie scene. What's that new that new game that everybody's playing right now? It's also another indie title.
There's a couple of them. I can't remember. I think it's called Repo.
Repo.
Yeah, which also we should play at some point.
Yeah.
If we have I need to get my device game up.
I haven't played it yet, but isn't it like a small team as well? Same as Lethal Company. That was one guy.
Lethal Company was one person.
Lethal Company was one person, and he put a huge dent on the market. I think he impeded Call of Duty sales.
I think
maybe I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know if that was. I actually don't know if my last point was true. Don't take that word for it. But it's more so like he sold a $10 game and made so much money for himself.
I was gonna say because Lethal Company was hot, dude.
So see, like one person, he was able to take something, make it great, people loved it, and then he reaped all the benefits from it. So now it's gonna take a lot of focus away from AAA. AAA is putting out too many products as well. They're not even focusing on all like one single product with all that manpower.
Exactly.
I mean, 343 is, or Studios is. I know there's a lot of drama going on in the back scenes there too. I don't know.
But I mean, we're talking about. I mean, it's the same. It's what I was talking about. It's the same example of when we talked about like the SoundCloud boom from like 2014 all the way up until like 2020. I would say, right, is when it finally kind of like really fizzled out. Like that whole thing was the emergence of not only a couple of key players.
Do you even need a record label now?
No, not really. It's just going to take a lot longer because you don't have the same sources. But the thing about the SoundCloud era was the fact that people now, the mass majority of people were now unlocked to the idea that they could make music and become an actual artist from their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
XXX, that is his legacy, or at least part of his legacy is the fact that all of these great songs that came out, a lot of these cultural songs that are super important to that specific culture, came from a bedroom.
Yep.
Which, that is insane. And for the longest time, the record industry was basically a good old boys club. It was a who you know, not what you know club. If you knew somebody, you could probably get in. But other than that, kiss your chances goodbye. You know, and then the SoundCloud boom happened, and everybody figured out, oh, wait a minute,
Oh shit, you can do that on YouTube too, bro.
I just got to get a digital audio workstation, a microphone, and an audio interface, and I'm good. That's all I need, right? And then, like, the emergence of, obviously, third-party distribution platforms to be able to get you on Spotify and everything. But, like, you know, that basically proved to not only the majority of people that were in this culture, but the record industry itself, that they're in jeopardy.
So, like, let's not. That's not to say that everything that's on SoundCloud is good content.
No, of course
No,
not.
it's not. It's going to be a lot more content, a lot more trash to filter through.
Of course.
That's also going to be prevalent in my opinion, indie games too.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a lot more titles out there, a lot more things to pick from, and then building a game is not easy either.
Yeah.
At least on that side of the spectrum. I know in music it's a little bit different.
But it's the same concept of, like, I'd rather have everybody throw something at the wall and create a Jackson Pollock than be like, I'm going to trace this line here. Oh, this line didn't work. Okay, we'll just trace this line. Okay, dude, I'm gonna make an art project out of this line. And then 3 hours later, you're like, never mind, I made kind of like a stupid thing that's not really an art project, but I hope you like it. It's like, that's been like the majority of games in AAA development for the last 5 years. Is, dude, we got look what we got. And then it finally comes out and they're like, what? But aren't you happy that it's out, though? It's like, no, I'm not. I want a good game. What are you talking about? So
I got a half base. I got like a half baked, half decent. Everything depends on DLC type product. I don't have a fully finished encompass game like back in the early 2000s where once you release a game, that's it. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. If that game didn't work or didn't sell well, then you're SOL.
Is what it is, you know?
Yeah, actually, the methodology back then is a little bit more correct because now studios are just major studios are just taking advantage of the fact that you could just fix it later.
Exactly. And also, I'm not gonna lie, on the consumer side, it's kind of annoying because back then, like, let's just take 2010, right?
Sure.
Back in 2010, all your games were hard copy.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty, Halo, yes, hard copy. I had the physical disc, and if I didn't want somebody to have it, or if I wanted to give it to somebody, I could. But it's the same thing with streaming movies nowadays. It's the same thing with games. Everything is online. It's immaterial.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a screen. It's not in your hands. It's on a screen, which for one is like, okay, I mean, I'm not opposed to the forwarding of technology, but on the other half of that sword is like like you said, it gives people an out. It gives them an excuse. If you wanted a Call of Duty game to be good, I hope you got good people because, 2 years down the line, when we hit deadline, I'm going to need that game. And if y'all don't have that game, somebody's getting fired.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, well, we kind of have like a half-finished game. It's like 4 quarters, maybe. But we'll add on stuff later on down the line. It's like,
kind of what's going on with the game. That's kind of like what's going on with Ubisoft right now is that their investors feel completely screwed over.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, there are investors from overseas, from Saudi Arabia. I know that's like the same with like some of the projects in Seattle, like Shrapnel or whatever. They got like investor. You know what? I actually probably should not include that. But anyway,
I would not know. I have no idea.
okay, like they get investors from overseas that give them big money, and then the studios keep saying, "Oh, we need more big money to finish the project." It's like, you said this amount was going to work. What happened? Like game studios are not able to fulfill their end of the promise.
Which is why, going back to the indie argument, like at some point, like everything is a cycle.
Yeah.
Everything is always moving forward in time, and history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And it was the same in the movie industry back in the day. At some point, studios kind of realized, yeah, well, I mean, we could make money, but like at what cost? Like we're just dropping duds at this point.
So going back to AI, I think AI is going to seriously help with indie studios and getting products put out faster.
Yeah.
And people are going to have more of an opportunity to like, you know, because you meet a lot of people that have a game idea or have music ideas, but they don't have the necessary skill sets to complete a project like that. Games especially, there's a lot of legwork that goes into making a game. But now it's going to require a lot less people with advanced AI making 3D models, which, by the way, it can do now, apparently.
Exactly.
There's a couple of other applications that you can use it for. Audio, visuals.
Yeah.
It's breaking into all that. And eventually I'm looking at the sheer fact that, you know, maybe my skill is about to become outdated. But am I going to complain about it? No, I'm actually going to use it for myself and use it to my advantage.
And I would say, like, this is the big thing, because I think a lot of people, and you touched on it earlier, I think a lot of people are scared that the thing they worked so hard for is going to basically evaporate before they can even touch it.
Yep.
And dude, we all share that fear. You know, I have that fear. I know you have that fear. But I think it goes deeper. Like, they can't take away the dream that you had in your head.
Yep.
All they can take away is the means to improve whatever you had. So, and I've talked about this before. Let's just take the music scene, for example. AI is going to be king of music, just like it's going to be king of the entertainment industry and everything else, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to efficiency and convenience.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, yeah, it's going to be a thing. It's unavoidable.
And then you can either choose to embrace it or get left behind. It's not an either we don't embrace it and then it's going to get banned. We're going to ban it. We're going to ban it. We're going to ban it. No, that's not what's going to happen. Exactly. You're going to get left. If you do not embrace this thing, make no mistake, read my lips. You do not use AI, then you will be used by AI.
Well, and I think the other half of this sword is like, okay, this is an inevitability. But what happens to things when they become more rare and more sought after? They become inherently more valuable to the human condition.
Yep.
Which means, let's take a bakery, right? Obviously, I could tell an AI, hey, I want you to make the best cupcake you've ever made, and then I want you to translate that and give that signal to the assembly line and have it start producing it. It's entirely self-sufficient, right? Discarding like maintenance or whatever.
Sure.
But like, okay, it does that. All right. Well, if you want to have that choice, you can have that choice. Or you can have the people that still believe in the original vision of putting their heart and soul into it. So you have big, giant corporate cupcake manufacturer that creates a really good cupcake, but, you know, it's not really unique. It's just a good cupcake, right? Or you have the mom and pop show, the small, you know, support your small business type thing. You have the mom and pop shop that makes it out of a labor of love, and for some reason are able to make it in a way that you just can't get anywhere else.
Those are going to be like the difference between Japanese Wagyu steak and like whatever USDA choice steak at Costco. I think it's going to be like,
I think it's going to be the deciding difference in the freeing idea for people as far as their contention with AI. You can take away these jobs, but if you really want to do it, there's nothing that can replace authenticity. So if you want to do this job by yourself, you're always going to have people that support you because people want that.
yes.
It's just AI is going to be a thing, so just be prepared to live in a world where you're not going to be playing center stage.
It's kind of like, lack of a better term, boomers and cell phones. They do not, like majority, like my dad included, cannot work their phone worth a damn. But it's like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need that to make it work. I don't need this and that. Like, same with my uncle who's like in his 70s and he's just like, absolutely just refuses to use any new generation technology. Just everything is very analog.
Yeah.
With these guys, they're very, if they cannot physically see it, hold it, or like anything in the digital world is in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
If they don't quite understand it. And that's going to be the next thing with AI in our generation. That's what I'm afraid of, is that people that really know how to work with this kind of tech and the people that will just refuse to work with it and be outpaced by it.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. It's not going to get banned. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, use it or get left behind.
Yeah.
Kind of where we're at. I hate to say it, but that's just kind of where the world is heading. Personally, what do I plan on using it for your music videos and the projects that we work on? Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be using AI left and right on one guy.
And that's the point. That's the point.
Yeah, on one guy. And if I can get a bunch of help from AI and like, I don't have to pay because like, get running production, hiring people out to perform certain tasks, a sound boom operator and 3D artist and animator and all this other stuff. It's like
Lighting specialist, all that stuff.
like all this stuff. And it's like, dude, I wonder how much of that I can just do on my own so I can actually focus on the main vision and the main product that I'm trying to build versus, yes, a labor of love. And yes, as much as I want to hire other people and as much as I would love to do, as much as I would love to hire other people, as much as I would love to utilize people's talents, because people are, like, don't get me wrong, people are your greatest asset. It's all about the people.
Mm-hmm. But we're talking specifically about efficiency and convenience.
And I'm working by myself most of the time. I'm always working by myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to use this to the best that I can, just to get whatever I'm trying to get out.
Exactly. And I mean,
I don't find that as a bad thing.
I think it's the same thing. I mean, God, I'm going to go beat this dead horse on the ground. But like the idea of the automobile, before that, right, we had the explosion of the locomotive industry.
Sure.
Right? And not only horse-drawn carriage, but mainly the locomotive industry. If you wanted to travel great distances, you had to pay somebody to be able to do that for you. You had to get on a train that somebody else built, that somebody else owns, in a business that somebody else is an expert in, that you're entrusting to take you somewhere. Now, you can do that. That is a traditional route. But the second the automobile was invented, it gave the individual themselves the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do as far as traveling. You didn't have to rely on a locomotive and a company and a conductor and trust them to get you to your destination. You could do it yourself. And I think it's the same thing here. Yes. Are there people that are going to be left behind? Are there people that are going to be hurt by this or feel like they're out of time?
Oh, yeah.
But this is about the efficiency of our civilization. And not only that, but if we're talking art, I want to create a short film at some point. I told you about this. I want to create short films at some point. I would love to, and I'll share this with you guys. None of you better take it because it's my idea first. Although if you do it better than me, I will love you. One of my goals at some point is to faithfully interpret the Injustice storyline, the original Injustice storyline from the comic book that came out after the video game. At least I think that's what I remember it being. I love that comic to death. I love it to death. I love the things that happen inside of it. I love the story. I love the ideas, the ingenuity on how they get around certain people's abilities and stuff like that and how that interacts with the story. And DC already tried to do that once. They tried it very recently, actually. They tried to do an animated feature of Injustice, and they screwed it up royally.
Time.
Because they were like, let's just make this an hour 30 runtime. I'm like, this is like a 2.5 hour movie bare minimum. Like, screw 2D animation. We're not even there. We're just talking about timeline wise, and you guys don't even have that down.
Nope.
So it's like, here's my goal. And like, it'd be something that I would love to do. Like, let's say when we get funding from being monetized on YouTube, I would love your help with that, by the way, because we want to make your dreams come true as well. This is why we do this in the first place. I would love to be able to have the money to supplement with AI, to be able to create a feature-length film about Injustice.
Sure.
I would love to do that because it's one of my favorite comics, and I think it's a great storyline. And yeah, we have the trope of the evil Superman that's permeated through. But this is where it all started for me. And this is what I want to do. And yes, I could go to a major studio developer and have to work with them and negotiate and bargain and hopefully get what I want out of it.
Hell no.
Or I could just use AI and do it exactly how I want it to do. Whether fail or succeed, it would be on my own ideas, not having to rely on other people.
You just have to fight for the license, but
Yeah, whatever.
yeah. The licensing would just be a different bit of a story.
I'll be like, this is all in satire. This is all good fun. This is all non-copyright. Please don't kill me.
It's fan made.
Exactly.
Fan-made.
It's a fan film.
Fan film. Fan films are about to become a different. Oh, fan films are about to become a different.
Yeah, it's gone.
Because like now Disney and doesn't Disney go? I know Warhammer goes after fan made content.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they do not. That whoever runs Warhammer or whatever that company is, they do not want you making fan made content. Period.
Well, yeah.
Everything is theirs and you can't touch it. But actually, they're smart for that. I'm going to tell you why they're smart for that. Because with the dawn of AI and how easy it's going to be to make content, it's going to dilute the brand. If people can make whatever interpretation that they want and turn Star Wars into My Little Pony, yeah, it kind of ruins Star Wars for people. And let's say now there's an oversaturation of all this wild content on YouTube. Now everybody's making Star Wars. So it's like now Star Wars isn't so special. That is a good call on Warhammer not to do the fan-made films. Because it's hard to make this stuff now. Eventually it won't be. They're ahead of the game.
I mean, I'd say from my perspective, I think it's kind of just like what you said. It's going to be an inevitability on like all fronts. So I would say like, if we were to take Star Wars, for example, if everybody had the ability to do this, one, not everybody's going to do that. Even though they have the ability to do it, yeah, you're going to have a lot of, again, slop with the good. But I think that's kind of like, it's up to people's interpretation. Like, dude, the main Star Wars IP put out the last 3 sequels. Nobody considers that canon.
Sure.
That is dog water. Nobody cares about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I care more about the Clone Wars than that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, personally, me, I don't take... but that, yeah, it does go in reverse. I don't take episodes 7, 8, and 9 as canon. It's not canon to me. I get to decide that. Not Disney. I get to decide that as a consumer.
Well, it's like majority of the fan base did too. So it's like, you even got that on your side.
It's like, oh, well, they still... Like, yes, yeah, sure, they still exist. They're right there. It's on Disney Plus. I could go watch those movies or something, but it's like, but personally, why would I?
Yeah.
Like they're bad movies.
They're horribly written, horribly executed movies at that.
Yeah.
And
so
it's like, again, to me, that's slop.
Yeah.
That's another thing thrown onto the trash pile while we're trying to sift through the good stuff.
And I don't want to sound like a shill for the Warhammer company that says like, oh, you guys can't make fan films. It's like, okay, yeah, like I'm not trying to shill for them. Don't get me wrong. Like, personally, me, I am not the biggest fan film guy. I'd much rather make my own stories and my own thing. That's my dream. That's my dream. That's what I want to spend my time doing. And I'm not bashing on anybody if that's what they want to do. Like, go for it. But I'm seeing the writing on the wall, and if everybody can do it, then it's no longer special. Like, imagine making those annoying AI voiceover videos for Star Wars, and that's all you see when you look up Star Wars. And it's just like, it kind of starts diluting the brand a little bit.
I mean, kind of. It's also just kind of like...
But again, I just don't pay attention to it. Again, that's 7, 8, and 9. I don't care. It's not canon to me. That stuff's not canon to me. You still have that choice.
Well, I think, let's just take this idea. Like, phones are mass marketed. Any company can make a phone. We have the basic idea of how telecommunications work. Anybody can technically do it.
Yep. But
does it dilute it? I don't think so.
But I'd rather have a brand that has everything in it be awesome than like a brand where all like other people can make stuff out of it and then it just turns out to be like half-ass.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where like the fan film interpretation of it is, because you have an out in that because it's not technically true canon. I think my idea is like, okay, you dinosaurs over here are saying that you're going to uphold the legacy of let's say Star Wars, right? That you're going to give the fans what they want, and you're going to make news stories and we're gonna have great adventures, and then none of that stuff happens.
Mm-mm.
None of that stuff happens because at the end of the day, it would be safer to make slop and make a quick buck than to actually innovate and create. And that's where I think, again, indie creators are going to come in, whether it's fan film or not. I mean, like we could sit around and be like, well, it's not true canon because it's a fan film. Like, okay, but Star Wars Theory is the only person on the internet right now that I would consider an expert on Star Wars that is putting anything out, and that's fan made. The Mace Windu thing and the Vader lore, that I'm more hyped for that than just about anything else right now as far as the entertainment space. I haven't watched that over a...
I think I keep up with that stuff more than I ever would with like what Disney actually like any news or articles written from Disney. Like if MSNBC was like reporting a new Disney film, let's just be like, nah. Star Wars theory. He's coming out with something. You hear that on Twitter, I'd be like, bouncing it. Yeah, I'd be more excited.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, no matter how much slop you throw at the wall, the ones that are passionate about it are going to stand out. Somebody is probably going to make, at some point, if they haven't already, a My Little Pony themed Star Wars. Am I going to watch it? No. Is most of the fandom going to watch it? Maybe. I don't care.
Now,
but the real story, like, that's why I say, like, authenticity is the one guiding factor that's going to...
Give me a second.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. It displayed a message. Okay, well, everything is still recording as far as I can see, so just keep going.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that's the one deciding factor is, like, doing a good job and being authentic in your storytelling is what's going to distinguish you from it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And it would be hilarious if My Little Pony Star Wars just happened to have, like, some of the greatest storyboard writing ever. But I think it's just kind of like, it is what it is.
As a matter of fact, that's where I think a majority of the AI stuff is going to be used for is fan-based stuff.
Probably.
I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of original ideas.
Which is where I'd say, again, AI is, I think, in my opinion, AI is probably going to outnumber us. You know, even if not now, eventually, as far as, like, in terms of being able to think faster than we can, more efficiently, be able to do this, do that. But
I wonder if a quantum computer AI is going to be able to come up with better original ideas than human beings.
You know, I think at that point, I just leave it up to whatever happens, happens. Because I think, like, because that's always been the question, right? It's like, what happens when, like, a non-human entity trumps the human entity? What happens when we're not at the top of the food chain?
Yep,
anymore?
because it'll be able to analyze everything that currently exists in art, for example, like a new movie. Let's make a new movie that's sci-fi that doesn't look like Star Wars or anything else ever made. Like creature design, the Xenomorph.
Yeah.
From Aliens. No scales. What was the rule? It was like no scales, no blubberiness. Like it had to be something totally new, something totally different. And that's when H.R. Geiger mocked up the alien creature. It was like this phallic looking nasty thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this concept art, but it's pretty exposing.
You got a motherfucking elongated green bean for a head. About an alien.
Yeah, pretty much. I think AI is going to be able to read, like, okay, what's currently on the market? Oh, it's like, okay, so... And then it can take what's there and just say, okay, well, what's not there? Go over all of human vocabulary and just be like, this isn't there, this isn't there, this isn't there. Let's make something that looks like this, 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 and this, and come up with a new nightmare monster.
Kind of like the law of the excluded middle of like its thinking process of like, okay, well, because we already know that like AI is only able to really take from things that are already existing.
Okay,
so
well, if it take from things that already exist and make up something that's like, well, this doesn't exist.
So what you're saying, I think what you're saying is like, what happens when it says, okay, well, here's all the things that currently exist, and then here's this giant window of everything that maybe could ever exist that nobody has ever thought of. I'm just going to subtract everything that everybody has already thought of and go from there.
And all it has to do is utilize the human language. It has to just take from the arbitrary. That's what humans have been doing forever. We're just taking from the arbitrary, right? So we're basically going off of our own understanding, our own references.
Yeah.
And then we utilize that to create something. Well, imagine that, but now your brain's 10 times, way bigger than what a human being can handle.
Yeah.
Or capacity. Okay, hang on. Let me rephrase that. It's going to be way bigger than the human brain capacity. It's going to have way more data. It can reference it faster. It can remember without any hiccups. Because like you and me in just this conversation, we're just having to recall like, what's the name of that thing or the name of that person?
Exactly.
It doesn't have that problem. And then it can take something out of the total arbitrary just based on human language. It doesn't need the reference from like making aliens and making a new alien. It's not going to do that. It can utilize the human language, and that in and of itself will probably be enough to take something from arbitrary words, just words.
Yeah.
And manifest or render on a painting, or in this case, a movie screen.
Yeah.
To create its own thing.
Exactly.
It's not entirely an original thought, but it's using original human language to reference with no visuals to make something new.
Yeah, and I think the ultimate question as far as AI is concerned is what happens when we breach the seal of, I don't want to say humanity, but like human authenticity, right? Because like that's the one thing that separates AI from us is the fact that like, yeah, well, AI can create a song, an AI song, but it'll never be genuine to us as humans because it doesn't have the human touch. It doesn't have the imperfections. And my question is, what happens when it learns how to do the imperfections as well?
I mean, like, dude, there's a bunch of songs made by humans that I don't really necessarily appreciate.
Well, yeah, duh. I think it's like kind of par for the course. But the question is, what happens when it understands that human beings themselves are inherently flawed and copies that process of being inherently flawed?
Should rephrase that. It's not that I don't appreciate that. I just don't listen to it because it's not for me.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be the same thing with AI. AI is probably going to make some stuff that it's just like, oh, yeah, that sounds sick.
But my question is, like, what happens when AI gets on the level of humans? Not in terms of efficiency, because we already know that it can do that. We already know that it can think faster, more broadband, more wide-reaching than any human can. At least even right now. My question is, the things that make us human are our imperfections. And I'll go a little religion, baby. The imperfections is part of our sinful nature. The way that we think, how we go about doing certain things, what we leave in certain creations that we make, even if it's not negative or positive, it just is. It's an imperfection, right? A wrong note in the middle of a classic rock song. A computer would look at that and say that that's inefficient. But we would look at that and say, yes, but that's where the magic happens. That's where true human creativity and flourishing happens, is in the imperfections.
Right.
So what happens when the AI or quantum AI gets to a point where it understands the science behind human imperfection? It does that, right? Because imagine we listen to AI songs right now, and we can tell for the most part that they're AI.
Oh, man.
What happens when we can't only tell that they're not AI, but we can't tell if it's a human or not?
Dude. Yeah, it's funny. We're already in that predicament. You know, Drake's channel, Kateri?
Yeah.
Like, people think his voice is AI.
I can kind of see that. Yeah.
He sounds like a robot when he's narrating, but I guarantee you all, that guy is not a robot. That is a human being.
No, that's a dude.
That's a guy.
And I think that's just my question. And I would love to, I think this is why, and if you guys have any guests that you think would be great on this podcast to talk about AI with, because this is not the only time that we're going to be talking about AI, just best believe. So if you have any guest ideas, I know that I'm going to try and see if I can find some guests that we can have on the next podcast or, down the road, whenever. But that would be my question. That, I think, is where the real conversation lies, because I think that's everybody's deepest, darkest fear when it comes to AI, is what happens when it can be a better human than a human can be, in not just efficiency aspect, but in everything we hold dear.
Sure.
The philosophical, the metaphysical, the spiritual, and the realistic. Like, if it can hit all of those points and still be indistinguishable, that is where I think a lot of the fear lies, is because it becomes like we as human beings are no longer, one, at the top of the food chain for any reason, but two, we're going to be replaced. And that, I think, is where a lot of the fear comes in. Do I think it's going to ever fully happen? Maybe. I'm going to look
replace the what reference? Like, we're going to run out of jobs? It's like, okay, now what is humanity doing in their free time?
Exactly.
That's going to be the thing. We're going to have like a...
And I think that's where universal basic income comes from.
I think that's probably would be... Talk about that. That would probably be the only outcome where it's like, okay, now we actually have to come up with a different form of commerce, or like, how do humans live? Because now the majority of work, it's kind of our artificial Eden that we just built ourselves.
Yeah, kind of.
That's cool. Well, it's probably what Revelations is going to be talking about if you actually read that book. But like,
exactly.
Yeah, no, humans are inching their way toward creating micro Eden, but it kind of leaves way to other issues. Like, what the hell are humans going to be doing in their own free time?
Yeah, and I don't know. I think
They don't
I'm just
have to
gonna be-
work. They don't have to farm. They don't have to.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna be along for the ride at this point.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I know if you guys are out there, I'm not practicing, but I am religious, so it's like I feel like I'm pretty chilling for the most part. But we'll see. I don't know. They could always backfire. But I feel at this point it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't have any literal metric to be able to measure out the next 2,000 years of human civilization and what it's going to look like, but I can tell you what the next 70 years is going to look like, at least, because I'm going to be living it. And if everything goes to shit, all right.
I think we're just all along for the ride. I don't think that we're gonna hit I do not think we're gonna hit nuclear warfare. I don't think so.
No, because I don't think it's ever going. Well, I mean, it could always happen, but I agree with you because, again, dude, I'm gonna harp on this again. Nuclear power, at least in terms of energy resource production, at least in my opinion, is the future. I think it is the future. It's the most self-sustaining energy source that we have. Yes, it has a general endpoint, right? But it takes a whole lot longer, a whole lot less of it. Mm-hmm. And I was having my conversation, like, well, what happens when we run out of nuclear mineral ore? Okay, well, we've already had test examples of people being able to turn different elements into other certain elements. And I don't know, this isn't based on anything, but let's just say hypothetically, we were able to take some of the surrounding elements that we have here and we were able to make, let's say, aluminum or whatever the most prosperous resource we have on the planet is as far as like a metal or a conductive element. What if we just take that and we make that radioactive and we turn that into a core? Oh, well, what if we run out of that? Okay, well, we have quantum computing. I mean, if we figure out how to do faster than light travel or more efficient space travel, what happens when we get into the broader universe and we start taking raw elements from asteroids or other planets or other
Elements that are probably going to be more rare, like Bob Lazar's element 115.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, that's a documentary. That's an interview from Joe Rogan you have to watch. That one was interesting.
Okay.
But anyway, what I think AI will eventually, in the immediate future, help us out with. New methods of computation. So probably in for the electronic space, less power consumption out of your devices.
Yeah.
No cables.
You were also talking about that a while ago. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that.
I think cables are going to start becoming a thing of the past in our lifetime. I do. I think, I don't mean power cables. I mean like connection cables, like what we're using on our mics right now. Same with HDMI cables on your TV. Apple is already talking about getting rid of the USB-C port on the phone and do wireless charging only. Yep, like how I'm charging that phone with that MagSafe charger right there.
Wait. So, okay, here's my question. If we're talking about cordless charging, let's just take that example.
And AI is just going to play a huge role as to helping figure out methods of data transfer and maybe power transfer as well.
Because I was going to say, it would be really, really cool if we could just have, like, let's say I plug something into the wall outlet, right? Mm-hmm. That is a wireless charger for an Apple iPhone. And as long as I'm in that room, it charges the phone, right? Not even putting it down on a charge, just having it in the room, it's charging.
No, Tesla coil. Done.
Is that what does that? Is that what does that?
Dude, have you seen video? Okay, like, they could make a Tesla coil work for wireless direct energy. That would be. You've never seen a Tesla coil work, have you?
Well, not until I've seen. Okay, look.
So you bring a light bulb over near a Tesla coil, it'll turn on.
Oh, okay. Good Lord, you're gonna find out how much of an idiot I am. It's a lot of these episodes. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, no, like Tesla coils. I think Tesla was like Nikola Tesla was onto something with wireless transfer of energy. I think that I still think that's a possibility. Yeah. I wish we would do that. And then what quantum computers, especially quantum computers, will help us do is compute the best methods of powering on screens. Maybe because of augmented reality, like what Meta's coming up with their glasses, right? Mm-hmm. And this is actually like, I think we're going to shoot a totally different episode on the Meta Quest glasses. Not the the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh yeah,
that was a flop. We'll save that one for next week.
Yeah,
but I don't think screens are going to be the same as what we currently have. I don't think they're going to be screens. At most, they'll probably be like mats that are just there for augmented vision goggles to put a display onto.
Interesting.
I don't think that screens are going to be as prevalent maybe in 20 years out. I don't think so. Now, it's going to be weird to walk into a room. Also, because of AI, another effect of AI, UI, UX design, done, gone, dead. Every UI, like, you know what Windows over here on my computer or Mac OS. You want to talk about minimalism and going to minimalism, you're going to look at a blank screen and you're going to be able to communicate to the computer directly what you want it to do. Play Cyberpunk. It's going to open Cyberpunk and you're going to start playing Cyberpunk. Go to
Jarvis, massage my balls.
YouTube. I'm telling you, that's what it's going to be. UI and UX is a dead concept.
Interesting. What did UI stand for again?
User interface.
User interface. Okay.
So, yeah, I'll make a short out of this. UI and UX, that's what I think AI is going to hit next. Web development has already gotten major hits from AI in general. Imagine this. Websites are probably still going to be there, still going to work.
Yeah.
UI and UX on your personal computer is going to be a dead concept. You will have maybe a desktop. You'll maybe have some icons. But for the most part, you're not going to be clicking on the computer. I think you're going to be talking to your computer.
More like what you were talking about with like Gemini.
With Gemini, you're going to be talking to your computer to tell it what you want it to do. Open up the internet, go to YouTube. It's like touchscreens versus mouses, right? Did you know that like young kids, they don't even use mouses and keyboards as inputs. They like to use touchscreens.
That makes sense.
So that's why touchscreens are more prevalent on laptops right now. They like to touch the screen.
Interesting.
So same with the human language is going to be. And that's where I think like Elon Musk's brain chip is going to be. Keyboards and mouses, dead.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that.
We talked
specifically for like, I think we were talking about Neuralink because I think a lot of people, including myself, is like, I don't think I'm ever going to get Neuralink.
I'm not doing it. Nope.
But just like a prosthetic arm, if I got all my arms and my legs, why do I need a prosthetic arm? Well, somebody does if they lost an arm. Well, what do you need a trip for, dude? Like, I mean, like, you got cerebral palsy, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
No, but it would be a hell of a lot more efficient.
Probably you're going to put on a hat or something, and then you can use...
Please label it thinking cap. My dad joke era will be complete.
I think what people will wear is a hat, and then keyboards and mouses are going to be gone, and you can look at a screen... or you could look at whatever display method we have in the future, and it's going to select the icons. You're going to be able to type without typing with your thumbs.
You'll just be able to say it or think it.
Oh, yeah, and then talk about gaming. You're not playing with a controller in the future. You're playing with your head.
Like that one dude.
Like the one guy that already has the implant from Elon Musk. He's playing with his brain. He's playing Counter-Strike with his brain.
How does that even work? Because you would think, like, if you're in the middle of it and, like...
It can read the inputs. It can read what he's thinking. And right now, they're trying to learn, like, human brain wavelengths or whatever method that they're using to read the brain signals.
Yeah.
And they're attaching it to like, a Windows OS, and they're just saying, okay, use your computer. That's going to be a mouse.
That's going to be interesting, though, because wouldn't you think, like, I don't know. I mean, like, if I'm super hyper-focused on something, yeah, I'm not thinking about anything else. But, like, you know, if my buddy's like, yo, I made pizza rolls, yeah, I'm out. Like, I'm instantly on something else. So now when I play Call of Duty and then he says pizza rolls and I'm not going to still be like, yeah, hold on, let me hit this kill mission really quick. Nah, the second I get pizza rolls in my head, I'm like, nope, turn.
I don't know. It's probably going to be a little bit more seamless than that.
I would think so. I think my curiosity kind of gets better.
I think because, like, well, one, you're already focused. Well, in your example, you're already focused using your fingers, all your fingers on the keyboard and mouse to, like, for input playing your game. And then, like, yeah, your brain might think for a moment pizza rolls, but eventually your brain's just going to go right back to what it was doing. Just wait a minute, but it'll still be processing all your neural input as to what's going on the screen. So it's like, I would prefer the hat method. You just put a hat on and then...
Yeah, that would be cool, dude.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a brain chip. I personally don't think. As much as people want to go cyberpunk for some whatever freaky reason,
for the.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the future of computers. I think what the future of the computer is going to be your phone. Here's what I mean.
More portable.
Here's what I mean by that. It's going to be a docking station. You're going to have your phone. You're going to put it on a docking station, and now it's your computer. And then you're going to be able to talk to it, directly communicate with it. It'll be a completely cableless experience. No mouse, no keyboard experience. I think you're going to look at a display, tell it what to do, or think it what to do.
Interesting.
And then, the big gaming computers are probably going to be the thing of the past. Maybe, because I personally do think Moore's Law is dead, so things are not going to get as small as they used to until quantum comes around. And then if quantum gets to the consumer level, which is a totally different ball game, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe right now it might just go to cloud computing, but I don't know that for sure. But what I think is going to happen is that you're going to see a lot more more simple games, more simple applications be run through your mobile devices. Maybe you'll have an at-home device. That part doesn't matter. It's the user interface that's going to matter the most. If you can think it faster than you can type it.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's another advantage, is like people that will get rid of the keyboards and mouses to pursue that method of computation.
Man. All right.
Yeah, I know. Okay, anyway, but like...
Oh, the Lord.
We are like 3 freaking hours.
Yeah, what are we at now?
2.7.
Woo, okay. So, I'm not going to lie. I think that was a pretty good first episode back.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think we got a lot of shorts and a lot of things out of that we can just cut.
I'm not going to lie. We might have an unfixable audio problem for this one, but not for the next episode. But I'm going to see if I can try and fix it after we're done, after we test it. You guys got nothing to worry about. I really appreciate all you guys still hanging in there. Whoever sees this video, give us a comment, a welcome back, and stuff like that. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas as far as podcast ideas, guests, goals that you want to see done in the future, as far as like any projects that you would love to see us create or at least tackle, I'm all ears. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and so is he. So if you guys have anything, throw it in the comments.
Fun first episode back. Really happy to be back. Ready to do this every week. Yeah, we got a lot more content coming up on the way. There's going to be a lot more reaction content and opinion content. A little bit. I got, to be honest, we're keeping up with the now.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a day-to-day thing. And then, like whatever we are coming up with as far as ideas, I know the first thing that's happening is once we get funding, we want to start working on some short films and stuff like that, start kind of breaking into that space a little bit, because that is the end goal. Is we do want to be in the entertainment and gaming industry in some form of capacity. I think I would like to go all the way. I think you're kind of in the same space, especially in gaming industry. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
So until then, though, we're going to have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff planned thus far. Again, if you guys have ideas for guests, we would love to bring people on here to interview. It's so fun doing this stuff. It's so fun learning about other people's experiences and their life stories and stuff. We're going to have guests that we on our own volition are looking at to try and bring on. So stay tuned for that. We're going to try and get regular updates if possible, but it's really just us two for right now. So yeah, just kind of bear with us.
And we got more content coming on the way. So we also do more than just podcasting. Like we're also doing visual effects. We're trying to do music content,
bunch of stuff.
Have fun, fun hobby stuff. So anyway, we love you guys. We're happy. We're happy to be back. Keep out for next week, next Sunday.
Yeah, finally. All right. See you later, Duckers.